and welcome to another episode of Panel on Panels, the podcast about all things comics and comics related. I'm your host, John Campbell. Joining me, as always, my co-host, Mike Gargoni.
Greetings.
And Mr. Donovan Eilert.
Hi, everybody. How's it going?
Our panel has grown by one today, though, as we welcome a very special guest. Some of you may have heard him on another podcast I host called You Haven't Seen That.
We also what now?
What now?
What is it?
You Haven't Seen That?
Oh.
Yeah, it's that one.
I don't know about this one because I've never been on there.
Ian's been on, but you haven't.
And Donovan.
And Donovan.
John.
In the same episode.
No, that was an oversight, clearly. What a mistake I made. I didn't do that intentionally at all. But you may have heard him on that because we forced you to listen to an episode of that as an episode of this show. But please, we want to, I guess, welcome back? Question mark?
He's never sat across from me.
This is true.
We're welcoming him for the first time.
That's fact.
Please, everyone. Ian Eilert, everybody.
Hi, thank you for having me back.
And yes,
but also for the first time.
Yeah, exactly. And for those who haven't figured that out, Donovan and Ian, you are related.
Vaguely related.
Yes.
We're waiting on some tests to figure out how. But yeah.
We're holding our breath.
We went to the same high school.
Yeah, we did.
Close
Which
enough.
got confusing.
Yeah. But we are, Ian, you're here because we are talking about, if you can't know from the title that you're reading on the computer or iPod or whatever.
John, you're showing them how the sausage is made. Stop it.
That we are talking about Star Wars.
We are.
Specifically Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens.
Okay, people, we gave you a week. We gave you a full week to go see this movie. We're going to spoil the shit out of this movie.
Yes.
So if you haven't seen it, stop.
If you are
now.
one of the 3 people in the world who hasn't
No,
seen
John,
it.
it's insane how many people haven't seen this yet who are still insisting that I not spoil it for them.
This
Like,
movie has already made $1 billion.
I know.
How is nobody? How is there anyone who hasn't seen it yet?
Well, at this table, how many people have seen this movie multiple times?
I've seen it twice.
I've seen it twice.
I've seen it twice.
I've seen it 4 times.
That's right. In a week.
You've seen it
For real.
4 times.
That's phenomenal.
4 times.
So that's how they made it.
And my response to you saying you've seen it 4 times, like, oh, I've got to go see it again.
Yeah,
then.
no, it's not. It's not. It's
a
not
challenge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Look,
It's
I'll say this: it was great the first time. It was really I think it was actually better the second time.
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
Third time, it was like an in-depth analysis. It was really I got to really dig into.
Well,
the
we'll be going through this as we.
Fourth time
dissect this
was
movie.
just like, man, this movie is really good.
yeah.
I'm looking forward to the 5th time. That's all I'm saying.
So I mean, let's not bury the lead then. My God, I guess it's a positive review from Gargoni.
Well, I think this movie definitely holds up over time. I
Yeah.
mean, that's for sure. For the few
first-
weeks that it's
I
been
don't know.
out.
I'll give it another decade or two, like I've had with the other movies, and then
Yeah.
we'll see. But
But the thing is those haven't faded at all.
that's
either.
what I'm saying.
It's
is
like
give me 10 years with this movie, and then I'll maybe be able to give you an accurate approximation of how I feel.
Here's the other thing too, and we're jumping way farther into the conversation than we probably should initially. But the other thing that 10 years will give you is 2, possibly more movies to see how this all fits together as a piece.
True, yeah.
Just part of this trilogy, though. I mean, plus
Yeah.
2, maybe 3 other films.
Yeah, whatever those other ones are, I don't, but I mean, just
But
how
more
these
of this
episodes,
universe.
yeah, how these episodes hold up.
But
with
okay,
one
yeah.
another.
I mean,
this
final
is
spoiler warning. We're about to get into it,
Yeah.
I think. And if you haven't seen Star Wars: The Force Awakens, go see it right now. Stop the podcast. Stop what you're doing. Find time. Open your heart to Star Wars.
there's no excuse. There's literally no
Look, you
excuse. not to.
earlier this year, we asked you to open your heart to Ultron. Now we're telling you to open your heart to. I'm going to go ahead and say, open your heart to the Force.
Let the Force flow through you. Channel your hate. Find that lightning buried. Wait, I might be going
Wrong
in the wrong side.
direction.
No,
Wrong direction,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay,
Look.
just force choke the crap out of anyone here.
Uh-oh.
No.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm getting
no.
looks.
You're warmer.
Okay. Warmer.
Force
Yeah.
choke like a hug, like a force hug.
Hug the neck.
Hug the neck.
How'd that work out for Anakin? We're not here to talk about those. So yeah, if you haven't seen it, now's your chance to leave. Okay, you're still here.
And this is not one we're joking about. There's like comics that we review that's like, if you haven't, you can kind of give our review and then go back and read it. Please do not listen to this without seeing Star Wars.
Yeah, you have been warned. All right, Star Wars, Episode 7, The Force Awakens.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so good. Yes, I mean, I think.
positive
I was going to say, I think what we can start with. You're getting 4 thumbs up reviews here.
I'm super biased.
You're super. Oh, okay. I mean, yeah. I think anyone who's listened to the show knows what a Star Wars fan you are.
I'm such a huge Star Wars
I mean,
fan.
let's start out by talking a bit about sort of our what baggage we come into this movie bringing, because I think this is important. I mean, obviously, Star Wars is something that it's a fan driven. I mean, this is a phenomenon. This is a pop culture icon. It's a stalwart.
And that's the thing is, I think we need to address right up front here is like normally we talk about primarily comic books and things that are comics related on this show. Star Wars transcends all of that because not only has it pierced like every aspect of culture,
it's
so omnipresent.
Pop culture.
Pop culture, fine.
But I mean, this is a thing I've talked to several people about, which is that Star Wars isn't a nerd thing. It's too big.
Yeah.
It's too Star Trek. That's a nerd thing.
It's
Babylon 5. Let's keep going down the rung of Stargate's
Farscape.
in there. Yeah, Farscape, Stargate,
Farscape.
all that stuff. Those are nerd things. Star Wars, you don't make $1 billion
It hasn't even released in China
in
yet.
a week.
Yeah.
In a
wait,
week.
it hasn't released in
It
China
doesn't release
yet.
in China until January like 9th or something.
Yeah,
Oh,
until like mid-January. So it hasn't even come out there, and it's already made $1 billion.
There's not many people in China to see it, though.
They don't really like movies over there, so especially not big tentpole like American films. Those never do well there. But yeah, you don't make $1 billion in a week and be a nerd thing. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just this. If you look at what kind of audience did you see in your theater? The spectrum of people.
Theaters.
Yeah, I mean multiple times. But I'm saying let's just talk about when you saw it the first time, even. Because when
It's universal.
Donovan,
ran
Ian,
the
and I
gamut.
saw this
Yeah,
movie
I don't
together, and there was a wide variety of people in there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And we actually saw it in a really conservative theater. There was one person dressed up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know,
That theater leaned heavily to the right.
Very conservative. If you knew the theater, you would. No, it's not. It's an independent theater. It's like a
Right.
Yeah.
small
Right.
family-run one.
Yeah, that
So-
we happen to live across the street from.
Exactly. And so
Maybe.
I think that, we definitely saw a range of ages for sure. I mean, people who had grown up with it and then probably new fans,
And we
hopefully,
saw
who had seen
a
it.
Thursday evening showing, right? So this is like before it technically released or releasing worldwide. So like when people ask me, when are you going to see Star Wars? It's like, well, before it comes out, I'm seeing Star Wars.
Yeah,
That. I don't want to get too off the topic there, but that's something that's bothered me a little bit. Like that Thursday release used to be like it was 12:01. You got to see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And they've slowly turned that into a soft Thursday release
Yeah.
because there are showings from like 7:30 all the way to like 2
In
a.m.
middle school and high school, I was all about that. Now in my advanced age, I don't mind seeing a movie at 7 o'clock.
I love
going
it.
to bed.
I love
like,
it. Like,
It's my favorite
in the
thing.
morning.
They're jumping on the Black Friday
because we.
bandwagon.
yeah, exactly. Black Friday starting on
It's
Wednesday
also
afternoon.
It was also nice for us to once again just walk across the street because we also went and saw Spectre at that Thursday at 7.
Yeah, but
You
that
and I,
Thursday
Donovan.
at 7, it was us and like 6 other people.
This is
so
true.
It's a little different.
The difference-
I didn't have to wait in the rain and stand
few
in
hours.
line
The big
while
difference
people.
is with my Thursday showing, I went to like one of the big, crazy, stupid megaplexes around.
Yeah,
here.
yeah. I haven't actually talked to you about that. What was that experience like?
That was nuts.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it was quite as nuts as the Spider-Man 3.
That was crazy.
That was pretty crazy, but that's because the specific theater I'm talking about, Bridgeport, it always bounces back and forth with their like big movie releases
Mm-hmm.
in terms of really well organized or so poorly organized that there's people literally choking the streets outside
This
the
is
theater.
true.
This one, crazy well organized.
They were planning this in months in
Oh, they
advance.
had
They
to.
must have. They had to have a game plan
But
well
I
in
think there
advance
was
of
at
this
least
thing.
like 6 or 7 theaters showing it at
Yes.
any given moment.
Because I think there were 4 or 5 in our little small town theater,
There's 8 screens and 5 of them.
and they handled it
showing
pretty well.
multiple.
They handled it very well. I thought actually.
They wrote a number on your hand.
Yeah, well, because you got to control what theater everybody's in, how many people you got. Yeah, so
Right.
for the next several days after, I was branded with the number 8 on my
Yeah.
hand.
so they know who you are when you're
yeah.
in public.
But I have many mementos of the night I survived the Star Wars opening.
But yeah, at my megaplex, it was a mob scene.
I'm sure.
Like just absolute madness. But
People in costume?
there was definitely people in costumes.
we just had the one guy.
Costumes of all like stripes and flavors. You've got kind of your like cheaper, like I don't want to call them Etsy crowd costumes, but people who like
Hey, well, yeah.
creatively augment their clothing to make it more Star Warsy.
Yeah.
And then there's the people who are in full on.
Well-
like there were several dozen stormtroopers.
I guess
Yeah.
there's 2 then, because we had a friend with us was kind of more or less Leia on Endor.
Yes. She did her hair
the kind of green
in Battle of
like
Endor.
I saw people in like Boba Fett onesies and stuff.
It's like low key Star Wars.
That's why
we
I thought it was
cosplay.
very interesting that the only like hardcore dressed up band was Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah, we had a Jabba.
Wow.
I mean, if you had to choose one character to go as for the
That guy's my boogie.
He took up 5 seats. You know, I mean, it was rough.
Do not quote the inserted Jabba scene from A New Hope at this table, sir.
Gorgoni, my boogie. Come on.
So much.
But no, so yes.
Well, that's something that I think
fandom and the fervor for it was certainly present.
That's something with that groan that just came out, that because there are still several people who have not seen it who are asking me for a spoiler-free review. They're like, I want to know what you think, but don't spoil anything.
which is more difficult than you think.
Yeah, and I boiled it down to they basically. First off, it's just an amazing movie in every aspect. The score,
Guys, it's Star Wars.
the acting, like the screenwriting, like everything about it.
Well, yeah, we'll break
beautifully.
this down over the course of this, as we always do.
The next thing is there's no groan-worthy moments of like, oh, I get it, we're in Star Wars. And the third is that it was the perfect movie for this franchise because it so gently is like 4, 5, and 6 is what we're going to focus on. Don't think about the other ones. Don't think about the additions. Just think about who these people are as like characters and let's move on. And it was just so good. I mean, I probably saw Jedi for the first time when I was like 7, 8 maybe. I've been waiting that long for the next installment. And it's so good.
This is kind of what I want to talk about with when I said the baggage we bring into it. We kind of jumped into some discussion of the theater. You said you were 7 or
maybe younger even.
Gorgoni, I don't. Maybe you have the same thing. I don't remember when I saw it for the first time. I don't remember my life without Star Wars.
I remember not wanting to watch it.
For real?
I remember Mom and Dad were like, hey, we're gonna watch Star Wars, and I was like, no, and they're like, it has robots. I was like, I don't know. And that first scene on the Tantive 4, I'm like, okay, I'm in. I got it. Like, what are these robots doing? Who's this guy in the black? I'm in. So I must have been. I'm probably younger than. I was probably 5, maybe.
I do not know.
I distinctly remember
was VHS.
the version that I watched, and that's like the old black and gold VHS, like pre-special edition, like box set VHS tapes.
Did it have what's his name at the beginning of it?
Leonard
doing an intro?
Maltin.
Thank you.
It totally did.
And it felt like an hour long.
And Mom
intro
always
to those
watched
movies.
those, and we're like, just fast forward to that scroll.
Here's the version I watched because this is and I still have this copy, or my dad does as well, or he has it.
Did you say Laserdisc?
No, the cooler. It's the VHS that came out before there were sequels.
Oh shit!
The very first home video release of Star Wars.
Damn.
Maybe Empire had come out, but it wasn't out on video yet. Like I'm talking like early '80s. My dad was.
Do you have a VHS player to play it?
I think my dad somewhere has a VCR as well. Yeah. But
Specifically
we still
reserved for
he
Star
he got rid of all of his
Don't touch
VHSs and went to DVD. That one he still has.
Yeah, no shit.
Oh,
So
man.
that's as close as you can get to the theatrical cut ever now.
Yeah, because the reason my dad is the reason I got into Star Wars.
Sure,
like these but I mean he bought VHSs like right at the beginning of the thing. The first movie he ever bought and owned was Raiders of the Lost Ark, and he paid like $60 for a VHS copy of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
He didn't believe that Beta was better.
He did not. No, he went VHS. But yeah, so that was the version I saw, and we didn't even have the other ones to a certain extent. I think we had like taped off of TV versions of Empire and Jedi, and then eventually the box set you're talking about came out, and we bought that. I don't know how many times we've bought Star Wars
Copies of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I just bought the Blu-rays again. I mean,
You bought the Blu-rays. Did you already have the Blu-rays?
because
This new box set is no different than the last one. It just has different packaging.
It has Vader on it. And that's
Because that really disappointed me. I thought we were finally going to get a Blu-ray of the original versions when they were putting this out.
No,
But
we're
oh
not gonna
no,
get those.
oh no!
That's still the hope. I don't know.
No,
I will never
here's what
lose hope for that.
If anybody had the power to do it, it would be Disney with all of the people and money that they have.
But here's
They would
here's
be
the
the people who
issue,
bring it
and
up.
people don't talk about this. Is George Lucas went through a divorce, and his wife got the rights to the original Star Wars and a lot like money rights from them, which is why he did the edit of the 4, 5, and 6. Is because there's enough new stuff in there that it's no longer technically those other ones, and his wife doesn't get money from it because it was a bad divorce.
Gross.
So,
now he doesn't. He has nothing to do with any of it. So they could cut a deal with. But Disney could cut a deal with her, and I mean they're sitting on money. Is the thing. They would make a ton of money if they put those out.
Yeah,
every
but
Star Wars fan would go and
doing
buy
the
those.
despecialized edition. If I don't know if you guys have heard.
I do know what. Yeah, I've heard of that.
If you guys have enough space on your computer, it's awesome.
They're totally worth it.
It's totally worth it. They look beautiful. People spending.
I mean, they're like 4K restorations. I mean, I'm aware of it. Yeah,
and it's like
these are. There's like
thousands of man hours.
Yeah,
of
these
people,
are like film school nerds who did this.
Yeah, cutting together all the colors and all of the sound effects and I mean everything.
This is the same team that brought us the Blu-ray release of Manos: The Hands of Fate. Now,
Why?
I don't know if it's the same team, but it's a similar idea. It was a bunch of film students.
Yeah,
Who in God's name would spend time with that?
There was a group of film students that went back in and restored Manos: The Hands of Fate in 2K high def.
At gunpoint is the end of that sentence.
So there's a gorgeous right now. There's a gorgeous looking Blu-ray of Manos: The Hands. I mean, as beautiful as you can make Manos look. Gorgoni,
Jesus,
come on.
That is a serious digression. We're getting away from the original question. You're right, John. I do not recall a time in which I was not.
This is what I'm trying to. I'm trying to get this preface of like because Gorgoni, you're in the camp of Star Wars super fan.
Yeah,
because I kind of want to. I kind of want to get people
witness
before we start talking about our opinions on stuff. So I kind of want to give people a spectrum of what
I've read. All the expanded universe. Like I was one of those guys who was legitimately angry when they wiped the slate clean with the.
Oh, I think we've talked about it on the show
where they did that, and I was just like. But the Thrawn trilogy and all my Mandalorian stuff and Boba Fett.
Boba Fett.
Don't worry, he's still clawing his way out of the Sarlacc pit, guys.
I don't see that. I don't see that happening under any circumstance.
I'm with Gorgoni. I want to bring it back.
What?
Shattered Empire, there is a clear illusion that he made it out of there alive.
Because here's the problem:
Shattered Empire, not the comic book. But the book, or the Aftermath was what it was called.
Oh, Aftermath?
Yeah.
I didn't read that. I heard it was terrible.
I still read it.
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. You're the guy, if there's a Star Wars moniker on it.
I've been devouring all the new Star Wars books, like the YA stuff they've been putting out, the novels they've been putting out. Shattered Stars, actually. Or was it Shattered Stars? I forget what it was called.
Lost Stars? Is that what it was?
Lost Stars. It's basically Romeo and Juliet in Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
This sounds great.
But yeah, yeah, I'm the super fan.
The problem, real quick, with Boba Fett.
Yeah.
If they
Careful,
don't,
watch your words,
no, hold on. I'm on your team.
Oh, okay.
If they don't, do not bring him back.
Which they won't.
If they don't bring him back,
and we'll play this back in a year and a half,
John.
and 8,
I'm saying
and
if
we can
they
talk
don't
again. He's
bring
still not
him
there.
back,
yeah,
he is less important as a character than Jar Jar Binks. He literally does. I mean, he puts Han and Carbonite, but really, that's Vader.
No.
He doesn't. He doesn't do that. He doesn't do anything.
Yeah, exactly. He
Jabba.
is a stork.
He is a courier. Yes,
and he's
a stork.
He's a
nature's courier.
Yeah, exactly. Pelicans are the storks of the sea.
Yeah, this is true.
However, if they don't,
the storks of Australia.
That's right.
and
and
ravens are the storks of Westeros.
Yes. If you don't bring him back, all of the merchandise, all of the everything will be in vain because he is a waste of time.
Yes, it was already in vain.
I'm just saying. So if you bring him back, then you've now been like, oh, this is the whole reason we have all of this.
No, it's a can of worms, man. You bring him back, bring everybody back, bring Vader back, bring the Emperor back. I mean, hell, why not? Death should matter.
But he didn't die. You get slowly digested over 1,000 years, John.
I don't care. Yeah, you're dead.
I
know they said that. He's dead.
Not in the
Let it go. Create new characters.
Or bring back Boba Fett. You choose.
To what end? How does that further the story? These people don't even know Boba Fett.
But now he's got a grudge.
Against who?
The Sarlacc?
Look.
That's what I said. The only reason there's no story point to bring him back.
You learn the Force powers from Luke. How do you learn to hunt down people? From the one guy who was hunting down Han Solo the whole time. Boba fucking Fett.
Yeah, he wasn't the only one hunting him down. He was the one that got him.
No, thanks for asking,
he didn't.
John.
Vader
So,
got him.
I don't remember a time either when I...
Yeah, I'm sorry. That was going to be 2 hours. Thank you, Ian.
Yeah, not a problem.
This is why you were here, because that would have been the rest of the podcast.
So no, I
we never talked about episode 7.
Subject.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, so no, we at our house we watched the Leonard Maltin gold and black versions, but the problem was that we actually I think kind of wore out those tapes, and that's why we had to get the DVD version, which as everybody I think we thought
there was the others VHS before that, the special edition.
Yeah.
That Grandpa Kylo had.
Well, but I think that, like most people, we didn't know exactly what to expect when getting the new updated George Lucas versions, and we were excited.
Did
about
anybody?
getting the
Did
DVD.
Did any of you go to the theater when they re-released those for the 20th?
Yes.
I saw all three of them in the theater as a kid when he did the special, because they released the special editions in theaters for the 20th anniversary.
No, I remember.
I'm pretty sure we did.
I remember for 10th birthday going to see Episode 1.
Yeah.
And then every
it
Star
was-
Wars since, but I don't remember.
In
seeing any of the
1997, it was.
original theater.
I distinctly remember it was February, March, and April, where they put them out one a month
I
of
feel
the
like
original
I
thing.
did, but I can't say with certainty.
we
I
did.
don't
I
remember.
I definitely did. That was like a big
was
deal.
during a time in my life where huge blocks of time are just like, I don't remember things.
Yeah.
That was, and so this sort of turns into, that was the height of my love of Star Wars, was that re-release, because suddenly there was way more merchandise, there's way more attention. But to talk about my fandom, it's the movies.
Yeah.
I don't care about the ancillary material. Some of the comics are fine. I've read a couple of the books. I did read the Thrawn trilogy, things like that. But I was always a take it or leave it on that. I was like, show me it in a movie, and then I'll care.
Your lower back tattoo says otherwise, John.
And
It's just
I'm
Admiral
a guy
Thrawn.
who places like infinite importance on the Clone Wars because I freaking love that show.
Right. And the thing, like, I watched some of the Clone Wars. I didn't really get that into it. I think it's a decent show, but I don't bring much to it because it still spins out of a group of characters and a group of movies I don't even really care about that much.
But that's the thing. Like it uses the backdrop of that time period, which is super important to the Star Wars universe, and legitimizes it in a way that the movies didn't.
Oh, I think it's infinitely better than any of the prequels, unquestionably. It's just not my Star Wars.
Sure.
And that's
Clone Wars Anakin is my Anakin.
I would agree with that. He's certainly that cartoon image was a much better actor than Hayden Christensen, and that voice actor I think did a good job. Not as good as the guy who did Obi-Wan, who I thought was perfect.
Oh, yeah.
But in Obi-Wan was my favorite part of the prequels anyway. But
Over Qui-Gon Jinn?
well, I mean,
Yeah, come on.
he only got to be in one movie, sadly.
Doesn't matter.
He's
No,
also
he-
in a couple episodes of the Clone Wars.
Those two, the buddy cop movie that is Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. They're doing an Obi-Wan and Anakin comic coming up. Why? Duke, Obi-Wan, and Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
Well, they might move back further in time, but I think that the comics are going to give us maybe that buddy cop movie of Anakin and Obi-Wan that we wished for, but
Yeah.
was kind of cut out of the prequels.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that sort of leads me into The Force Awakens a little bit, where I feel like for the first time since I was 8 years old and they re-released those, my Star Wars is back.
Sure.
And I think that will take us into the movie now, which is
Don't get me wrong. Like the amount of excitement I feel towards this movie is magnitudes greater than like all the other ancillary stuff, the Clone Wars TV show, Rebels, all the books, all the video games. Like that fills a hole in me to a certain extent, but nothing, absolutely nothing, beats sitting in a dark theater.
Yep.
When the Lucasfilm logo comes up
Yep.
and it's completely silent,
Yeah.
and then Star Wars and the music rolls and you're just going, Star
Yeah.
Wars!
Yeah, yeah,
Nothing
yeah.
beats that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing for me is at a certain point, I didn't even really consider myself a fan anymore. Because they're really, I had this conversation about 3 years ago, maybe, before they announced these things. I was like, it's just not for me anymore. They're making the Clone Wars, that's fine. They're doing these things. They may do a live action TV show, whatever. It's just like, but I was like, I just have to accept I had those 3 movies. I had my fun. But now I'm firmly in the Star Trek camp and I have my other things and then they announced they're making this, and then the J.J. Abrams is doing it. It's just like, okay, I guess I'll get back into it. And now I'm firmly back into it. It feels nice to like identify myself as a Star Wars fan again. I'm still more of a Trek guy, but to put that back on, and I just feel like, it's we're home, as Han Solo
Yeah,
says.
welcome back, John. I never left.
Yeah.
I feel like they
You're the
abandoned
prodigal
me.
son of
I
this
feel like I
scenario,
didn't
John.
leave. I feel like they abandoned me.
But there was good stuff being made.
There was some good stuff.
Yeah, it was. You had to sift through a lot, though. They were asking me to do too much work as a fan.
Ugh.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I know.
What do you mean?
It's not It's not that they're asking you to do any work. It's they're giving you like this this world, this plethora of stuff, and like pick what you want, enjoy what you want. It's all there for you.
I know, but I'm saying I didn't. The world of Star
you didn't
Wars.
want to take any time to appreciate any of it
Because the world of Star Wars is not enough of a draw to me. This is a key difference between you and I think, to begin with. Is the world is one thing. It's fine, but the world has to spin out of people, and I feel like this franchise has not been about characters for quite a while.
I completely disagree.
You really? You're going to tell me that
it's not been as outright about characters for a while, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think Star Wars at its core is about characters.
Yeah, exactly.
I think no prequel or anything I've seen since has given me anywhere close to the feeling of the original characters. And they've created no new characters who have interested me as much as those people until now.
With the exception of Qui-Gon Jinn. You just said it.
Yeah.
I'm refraining from speaking because it's only going to end in an argument where I am the only one getting all the references.
We should review the movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
We should review the movie.
So we open on this movie. It's been 35 years since we last saw this story continue in what is now a canonical way.
Yes.
Roughly 35 years have passed in story time as well.
Right.
We open on Luke Skywalker has vanished.
Luke Skywalker has vanished.
Has vanished.
And in his absence, I can almost do the crawl from memory now.
Yeah.
The evil First Order has risen to power.
So we basically, I mean, it's interesting. A lot of what sort of was changed by the end of Jedi has kind of been restored to a certain extent.
That is actually one thing I've been seeing on the internet quite a bit in the, I guess you could call it fallout since this movie has come out, is that you could maybe call it a gripe about this movie, and it's one that I don't necessarily disagree with, is that the happy ending we got at the end of Jedi is completely destroyed in the beginning of this movie.
How is that not going to happen?
And no, that's the thing. To have new characters, to have new struggles, we have
a story.
We have to present an evil or a bad guy that the original characters couldn't have overcome.
Right. You couldn't do episode 7. I mean,
I realize.
Yeah,
unless all the old characters were dead.
Right.
And nobody wanted to do that.
Episode 7, Leia planting a garden, and
right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Hans filing tax returns.
Mimosas.
Exactly.
But I think that the thing is that, I mean, it's been 30, 35 years, and I think that we're seeing the beginning of this the Resistance. I mean, we're not seeing that these people have been in power for 10 or 20 years, because I think that would take away the ending of Return of the Jedi. But with this,
would you like to know what I know about this universe from the visual encyclopedia of The Force Awakens? Because I can tell you some of the backstory of what's going on here.
But this is kind of the thing I get into when we talk about Star Wars, and this is what I'm talking about, where it's like, okay, there's all these things in an encyclopedia, but does that really matter to the movie? Like, I mean, what the
some
movie...
of it actually does. I feel like if they'd expanded on this a little bit, the movie would have been stronger.
Do you think they will in 8 and 9?
Probably.
Okay.
In terms of the First Order, their relationship to the Republic, and the Resistance's relationship.
But isn't that the kind of crap that made the prequels so hated? That they over-explain things trade negotiations and Galactic Senate
45 minutes in the Senate is what made people...
That's what I'm saying.
Also, there's a difference
slippery
between
slope.
over-explaining and explaining anything.
It's a slippery slope, though.
Sure, fine, but you can find a happy medium, John.
Do you think this movie didn't explain enough?
There were way more questions walking out of this movie than I've had in any other Star Wars movie.
But that's Lawrence Kasdan, I think, intentionally leaving.
Sure.
I'm totally fine that there's a lot of questions coming out of this movie, because it sets it up for numbers
8 and
9. And I think that, the difference between this and A New Hope is at the end, or Star Wars, excuse me. Star Wars, when it first came out, I mean, that movie could have stood alone, and we could have never gotten another Star Wars.
It was designed that way. I mean, because it was a gamble, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where this one, I'm fine that they left a lot of questions, because I'm now more excited for the next two
know that a year and a half, we're only going to have to wait before we get episode 8.
Only a year and a half?
It's May 26, 2017.
May. They're doing a summer release for this
May
one?
26, 2017.
Yeah.
They start shooting in February.
Cool.
They've already shot some of it. We'll talk about the location that the end of this movie takes place on was next to impossible to get on, and so they thought, let's just shoot the beginning of 8 while we're already here.
Or
smart.
maybe not the beginning of 8, but a portion of 8 that would take place on.
Whatever those scenes needed for 8 are, we only have this location for a very short period of time.
The Isle of Dagobah.
It's changed a lot since the last been.
we come into this movie. Yeah, I don't agree with that necessarily. I don't think that's a negative. This ruins the happy ending because I think, like I said, we need conflict. And so we come into this. We've established a world where I also the First Order is not. They're not as powerful as the Empire.
Well,
no, they're not. I don't get the sense that because we don't.
Again, we don't get the sense of anything. We don't see anything on a galactic scale.
And I think that's the difference is we don't see them expanding. We see them on their own planet that now has a lot of power and they're able to take out.
But I mean, this movie also firmly takes them into the Nazi territory that the Empire always sort of was roughly based on.
You've got red flags behind a guy going, "Rah!" And then everyone in the crowd raising a fist in the air. It's like, firmly like,
but
wow.
What I'm saying is I think we're seeing the beginning of Nazism to a certain extent where it's isolated here and then it expands out of Germany and it takes Poland and it goes. I mean, I think that's what we're seeing is like they've taken Poland basically at this point. And they've expanded. They're an ever-growing power.
By blowing up the Hosnian system.
And in Star Wars, you get the already established Empire.
They're in full command.
People know. They're like, yeah, they're the ones in charge. We get it. That's the kind of the way things are run. And so the rebels are the ones who are, doing something different.
The difference with this movie is we never see any planets that are outside of the First Order's reach.
Yes.
So they feel like the Empire.
Well, we do see one that is then immediately destroyed. But it's destroyed for that reason.
Well, we see two if we're counting the very last location.
That's what I'm getting at is we don't see like what is the galactic landscape in any way, shape, or form.
Do we in the original Star Wars?
No, but we don't have to in the original Star Wars. They're not sequels.
I think what's interesting and what's cool about this movie to me is that it narrows the field back to being still large scale, but also smaller scale, a more intimate movie.
The difference is in the original Star Wars trilogies, we had two factions. We had the Empire and we had the Rebellion.
Yeah.
That's all we needed to know. The Empire was in charge of everything. That's all we needed to know. In this, they mention the Republic. They mention the Resistance. They mention the First Order. They mention like the remnants of the Empire, basically.
Which is the First Order. There's a difference between the remnants of the Empire and the First Order?
Yes.
What is that?
The First Order is like the radicals. They're the Nazis.
Yeah.
Like the Imperial fragment is just the chunk of space that the Empire kind of still controls. That the Republic just like has sanctioned into nothing.
Where does it mention that in the movie?
The First Order is the Nazis to the Empire's like post World War I Germany.
Okay, but I don't.
It doesn't state that in the movie. That's the thing.
But I never thought that. Is what I'm saying. The movie doesn't state that, but it doesn't.
The movie doesn't state a lot of things.
I know, but I didn't leave the movie going like, well, how does that add up? It was. I mean, it might as well. The Resistance and the First Order are really the rebels and the Empire.
Sure, but that's the whole. That's what I'm getting at. Is we don't get a sense of where the First Order fits into the galaxy post Jedi. Because post Jedi, we get like we're even told in this movie they started a new republic.
Yeah. Which of course they did, but now I see it as a growing cancer basically.
Sure, but you like are making that assumption. We're never shown that.
Well, I mean, other than I think primarily they're based at a Starkiller base. It appears.
Yeah,
which
again,
we can talk about
like we don't get a sense that this is like an isolated thing that is becoming a like huge threat. We get a sense that like these guys are in control.
Wait, we all like this movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I pick apart because I love it.
No, I had to struggle to find things that I could actually criticize on this movie.
I'm not criticizing the movie anyway. Like I said, I think the vagueness of some of this stuff is actually really good because I think the prequels in particular got overly complicated with this stuff, and I think this movie made a conscious effort to simplify the story and take it back to the core of what Star Wars is about, which is the battle between the light and the dark. We can also go back to, or not go back to, but to jump to one of my favorite parts of the movie is Maz Kanata, and the only war that really matters is between the light and the dark.
No, and I love her
the names don't matter. The Sith, the Empire, the First Order. It's the dark side versus the light side. And I think this movie does a fantastic job of making it that these guys are the good guys, these guys are the bad guys. As for who controls what sectors of space, does it really matter?
It's not who controls what sectors of space. It's giving us a better understanding of where this guy fit. Like, there's a struggle going on. We know that. Like, it's between the Resistance and the First Order. I want to know how they fit into the bigger picture.
But not everybody does, and I think they give you enough that you can enjoy the movie and realize who's bad and who's good.
Yeah.
This is the Star Wars fan in me who's just like, I want to know everything. This is awakened a voraciousness in me that hasn't been around in quite a while.
Yeah.
Like, This was when I was first discovering all the EU books and stuff. It's like I wanted to know everything that was going on. I wanted to know that like IG-88 had a copy of himself in the original Death Star, and his programming was eventually going to take over all the machines if Luke hadn't blown it up. Like that kind of shit like blew my mind when I was a kid.
But the great thing about this is because we are at the beginning of the new wave of everything Star Wars,
right?
Is that we're not the only people with questions, and it's being figured out by people who are brilliant at writing, people who are brilliant storytellers. So we're going to see this emerge. Like, by the time I came to Star Wars, I could literally read dozens of books and comics and other things that had been around. This, in the new, like, the reset, the, like, soft reset that they did, we don't have all of that. So we're learning. I mean, they've been Marvel's been releasing Star Wars comics. It's not in this time period. It's been all the like fill in stuff in the past.
There's going to be that 30-year gap between Jedi and Force Awakens that they're going to be filling that with buckets of stuff.
And
in the next
so
of course,
it's going to happen, and I'm excited for that. But I don't have the urgency of like this is what I need at the moment because I'm still reeling from the fact that I just saw one of the best movies I've seen, and it's a Star Wars movie, and it looks beautiful, it sounds beautiful, everything in it is just awesome. Like no groan-worthy moments. I mean, there's nothing to complain about. I mean, you can pick some things apart, but like as a whole, that movie was
it's fantastic.
Exactly
I've
what
seen
it needed
four
to
times
be
for a reason.
Sure, no, I'm not saying
I'm being the nitpicky one here, and I realize I'm like
I think
super fan is shining.
Well, this is what I'm saying though. I think, and as you're talking about this stuff, and I think it's true. At the end of the day, you and I are different kinds of fans.
But we're also taking there's definitely a sliding scale here. Gorgoni, you're at one end. John, you're at the other end.
Yeah.
Ian and I are somewhere in the middle.
Yeah,
having read
it's
books
all
and comics,
yet it's
and
all within the spectrum of being hardcore Star Wars fans.
Sure,
we were just different levels of it.
And that movie pleased all of us.
Yes,
that's another important.
And that's
thing.
why I think this is such an exceptional film. Is the fact that all of us can enjoy it.
I've talked to people who have not seen a Star Wars movie and saw Force Awakens, which, by the way, is a mistake.
Ooh.
A couple people I work with. Don't worry about it. However, they enjoyed the movie. They're like, that's really fun. Or people who are like, yeah, I'm not really into Star Wars. And they see it and they're like, that was a really good movie. Yeah. Like that just...
Which, to my argument, should be that really should be what these movies are, because that's what it was. I mean, the reason it can make $1 billion, because people keep saying, well, geez, like it can't just be Star Wars because the name, none of the prequels made $1 billion. It's like, yeah, none of the prequels are this movie.
Right.
It really does come down to there's a certain type of storytelling, and it does. I know a lot of people have complained about it's too much like the original Star Wars.
It's kind of like a soft remake, a little bit, but
in places it. I don't know that
it's not a beat for beat remake.
I don't know that it ever retreads so much as it's reminiscent of in many ways.
I think reminiscent is too weak a word.
Well, here's my complaint, Ian.
It touches on similar story beats. I don't think it ever like purposely.
John, there's a trench run.
I might.
Okay, and that's
this movie was in some part to win back fans. I mean, because it really was. Star Wars lost a lot of fans with the prequels because George Lucas did his thing, and we could go on about that for a long time. So this movie really
just go
was
watch the documentary "The People versus George Lucas."
So this movie was in a certain part just to try to win back fans, which I think that they did.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, this movie had to be reminiscent of the original trilogy,
and
which they did well.
That was part of the review of like. We understand that 1, 2, and 3 happened, but just take a deep breath, think about how much you love 4, 5, and 6 again, and then watch this movie. And it's really great. And my biggest complaint with people who have complaints about this movie is how often I'm hearing it's just like Star Wars. It's just like Star Wars. It's like the original trilogy is what it is. It's got elements of all of them together in a way that now we're moving forward. It's saying like, listen, there's still echoes of what's going on, but we're moving forward in this. It wasn't like, oh, here's a new Jedi. Here's a Jedi Master. Here's a Dark Lord. Here's exactly this. Here's exactly this. Like, what happened is it's a splintered fragmentation. Like, people who are like, oh, well, Rey's clearly this character, and Poe Dameron's clearly this character, and go through. But they're all bits of previous characters. Exactly. They're like absorbing all these.
Well, they're just a reshuffling of the archetypes that made up the original movies, and what made those original movies so strong is their like kind of, I don't want to say stringent, but definitely they stuck to like the hero's journey and all these traditional archetypes of classical storytelling.
It's once again why I think this franchise has been so successful is the fact that it's classic mythology.
Right.
It's something that we all crave.
Good versus
always.
evil.
Yeah, we're
always
all
easy to watch.
Humans will always crave this story.
I believe,
this is just.
I think this is
Fighting
this
Nazis.
generation.
Fighting Nazis.
Always
You
crave.
punch
Yep.
a Nazi, people cheer.
Mm-hmm.
But was it?
Hence the success
I
of
don't know
Indiana
if it was
Jones.
J.J. Abrams that said this, but like somebody working on the movie said they thought about it more as like a fairy tale first and then sci-fi second.
Yeah.
I think that is very important with Star Wars, and like this is part of the reason I love Star Wars so much is because it's not the traditional like hard sci-fi that you're used to when you talk about like say Star Trek or Babylon 5. Like this is a fantasy.
I like how much
space.
Babylon 5 has come up.
But that's the argument that I have with people too that say they don't like Star Wars, and because they say it's sci-fi, and for me, it's not sci-fi for sci-fi's sake. It really is. It's a fantasy story, you know.
It's the two genres. It's the two genres merged perfectly, really.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, we don't have to go back here, but that was an issue with the prequels. Is it feels like you're trying to explain the Force too much. It's
They
like
lost a lot of the mysticism.
They're wizards. Jedis are space wizards.
It's interesting how much they explain and how little they explain. The prequels really did this terrible thing of like they tried to over-explain certain things and then they totally glossed over other parts. Right. And you're just like, well, wait, what was that thing? That actually felt important. Don't tell me midichlorians. Tell me about why that. Like, tell me any reason why Anakin turned to the dark side. Really, I mean, really, beyond like a very surface level.
If someone had just told him, dude, it's okay if you get laid, it would have been fine.
I know, like, but the thing is, like, I don't want it to be that simple, and I'm not here to complain about the prequels. I can do that all day, and we could do an entire episode about what's wrong with those.
And that's something that I think Force Awakens does really well. Is it takes somebody who in 4, 5, and 6, Han Solo is like, ugh, whatever, and he's like, no, this is like all this mystical, magical stuff. The Force. It's true. One I love. You see a new generation interacting with that with Rey and Finn.
Yeah.
One of my absolute favorite moments in the film is when they're on Starkiller Base, and he's like, "Well, what's your plan?" He's like, "I don't know. We'll use the Force." And Han Solo's like, "That's not how the Force works."
Yeah.
Like he's figured it out now.
Well,
he's like.
And to take it a little bit what you're saying when we were talking about like why this to bring it back for a brief moment to Star Trek, because I do have to make this comparison. I really do feel like this is Star Wars The Next Generation. I feel like this does with the characters what Next Generation did, where they are a reshuffling of the archetypes in that sense. Because people always love to go, oh, Riker is the Kirk and Data is the Spock. And it's like, yeah, there are pieces of those characters, but then reconfigured and put in a new context in a way to make it feel fresh, but reminiscent of something and respectful of something and to continue that lineage.
If you say that Enterprise is like the prequels, I will punch you in your blasphemous face.
I would not say that.
I will take you
I might
out.
say that.
I'll take you out, Gorgoni.
No, it's nowhere. It's nowhere near as
problem.
egregious. Whatever flaws exist.
Super
in,
Klingons are great.
Whatever flaws exist in Enterprise,
there are none.
I don't know about that, but they're not the prequels. But that's my only. I'll stop talking about Star Trek, and I haven't actually talked about it that much. But I do feel like that was the sense that I got that feeling coming out of it. That I got that same feeling I got from when they started Next Gen.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
And so let's get into actually what happens in this film. We open on a sort of a very classic Star Wars kind of way. I mean, of course we have the scroll, but I mean, we open on a giant. Like, I'm going to use the word Imperial. I know it's First Order, but I don't know what else to call it. Star Cruiser.
They're what's left of the Empire.
Yeah.
Like,
so we open on
bad guys.
I love the idea that
visually you see that they're bad.
It's
I mean,
bad
like
guys.
that
Yeah.
the
And the
establishing
music
shot of
cues and everything.
But this is something that the EU always dealt with, which I loved, was like when they killed the Emperor at the end of the Jedi, that doesn't make the Imperial fleet disappear.
Yeah.
Like this whole military structure still exists.
I'm going to say something, and I don't. I want to go through this movie a little bit here, like point by point for a second. So don't jump too far into this, Gorgoni, because I'm not. But the thing that people talked about eliminating the EU, right, and then everybody got upset about it, and I think they did what I figured they would do, which is there are only so many directions you can go with continuing the story, and it's not the EU. They're not beholden to anything, But there are things like that. Of course, there are going to be remnants of the Empire. And there are a couple other things that happen later in this movie that also are reminiscent of things that happened in the EU without being
They've
direct.
taken bits and pieces. They've blended it
Because-
together. They've kind of used what works.
And then when
Because-
Boba Fett comes back, you're like, that's good.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying, because there are certain things that like have to happen if this story, if this world, if this story
Continue in a logical fashion.
Yeah, there are only so many directions you can take it. So, in terms of that sense, when people get upset about the EU stuff, it's like, yes, you're never going to see that played out exactly, but you're going to see a continuation of it that may be familiar in
John, to be
certain
fair,
beats.
Given months of sulking, eventually I came to terms with the fact that they
yeah.
couldn't keep the EU around. I get it.
Yeah.
This was again after months of like, why did they do this to me?
Yeah.
But I'm fine with it now,
Yeah.
and especially after seeing what's come of it.
Yes.
I'm just like, okay, I'm glad they like reset the board in a way.
They had to. I mean,
Also,
we
it's
talked
worth
about that.
saying that there's some gems in the EU.
Oh,
There are some.
I'm not besmirching the EU in any
Exactly.
way, but I'm saying that there was so much of it. It became so intertwined in its own mythology
Yeah.
that you
was
never
the thing,
would have been
is
able to write a movie.
It had its own mythology.
Right.
It was crazy.
The only way to write a new Star Wars movie was to burn it.
Don't burn it. Just respectfully shove it aside.
Put it in a glass.
That's
case.
over there.
It's now labeled with a nice gold band on the top that says
Legacy.
Legends.
Legends? I thought it was Legacy for some reason.
Legends.
That's a different comic, I think.
Star
So-
Wars Legacy is a very different.
So we
comic.
open on
Jakku.
Jakku.
Definitely not Tatooine.
I know. So this is a question I have, which is why not Tatooine?
Because I'm glad they didn't do
it makes the
Tatooine.
No,
universe
I
too
don't-
small.
Yeah.
It makes
Yeah.
everything way too small.
But it's interesting how it is very, very much Tatooine without being Tatooine.
Kind of, yes. I got a more like salt flatsy feel from this one than I did like just rolling dunes.
One of the things I really like about Jakku is it was clearly the spot of a giant battle. And so there's all these leftover pieces, remnants of, excuse me as I get a little more metaphorical here, both whatever war came before it and the franchise that came
Right,
before it.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing though, is because there are several different planets in this movie, and they all kind of feel, with the exception of the very last one, like ones we've seen before.
Yeah.
Snow, desert,
Well, no, it's-
forest. But the thing is if you think about inhabitable worlds,
Yes.
they're going to be similar to what we have.
You can
I
only
mean,
have, once again, and the story can only go so many ways. There can only be so many types of planets.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, Mustafar's great, but did we need to see that the way it is when we saw it? Like, it's simpler, and also from a movie making standpoint, like we already have deserts. We can go to the desert and film in the desert.
And actually, I was going to say that's one of the key things about this movie is we're not on green screens. We're not in George Lucas world where we're just creating worlds that can look like anything. We are going places,
Yeah.
and that has way more impact than anything you could create on a green screen.
Yeah. True.
To see them go back to Tunisia to shoot Jakku is incredible. Because
and when Mad Max rode by in the background, I was like, yeah.
you can't
Witness me.
recreate that. No matter, I don't care how good your technology is, you're never going to be as good as a real location.
I mean,
and in
that
particularly,
final-
we'll
that-
talk about
yeah,
the
that
final
scene with
final
Luke,
shot
yeah.
of the movie. Incredible. But so we're on Jakku, and we meet one of our new sort of what our we had in the original movies. This is sort of a holdover. They're not the same characters, but we had sort of a triumvirate of Han, Luke, and Leia. We have a triumvirate, I feel like, here, and we meet the first piece of that at the beginning of this movie in Poe Dameron, the most daring resistance pilot we are described as.
He is like space Top Gun. He
Yes.
is.
Yeah.
He's Goose.
Yeah,
Like,
he's
totally.
Maverick.
he's Maverick.
He's all of them.
He's all of Top Gun.
Poe Dameron, played by Oscar Isaac, one of my favorite actors,
Soon-to-be
actually.
Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Soon to be this guy. There's, I don't want to get too much into like what he does outside of this. There's nothing this guy can't do. He is one of the most versatile actors I've ever seen. The fact that he can go from playing Poe Dameron to Apocalypse is pretty
Right.
amazing. The fact that he can do Ex Machina and Inside Llewyn Davis and Drive, and he's an amazing actor.
Yeah.
Most Violent Year, go out and see it. Not enough people saw it. But right off the bat, this guy has presence on screen, though. I think Poe Dameron.
Oh yeah, he commands every scene he's in.
Yeah. And a lot of people have, and I think rightfully so, if you're going to start labeling, he sort of fits the Han Solo kind of role.
But there's a big difference between him and Han Solo, and that's that in every like chance he's given, Han Solo was always the reluctant hero.
Yep.
He's always just like, this is not a good idea. I shouldn't be doing this. Poe Dameron's like, I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do. I'm fighting for a cause. I believe in this cause, and everything I do will be towards furthering that cause.
Poe Dameron has 0 character flaws.
Nothing
Nothing shows in this movie. Han Solo, the first scene you see him, it's all flaws, which is great.
He's in a hive of scum and villainy.
Yes, he shoots his way out.
Yeah,
maybe not ethically.
Here's what I've been telling people
he
about
pays the bartender afterwards.
He does pay the bartender to
the
clean
mess.
up
So
the mess.
Here's what I've been telling people about Poe Dameron, and let's get my bias out here. He's my favorite character in this movie, and probably going forward now in Star Wars. But and this is why he is, to me, he's the swagger of Han Solo with the heroism of Luke Skywalker.
I mean, he's the paladin.
Yeah.
He's the righteous.
That's what I'm talking about. When he's Abrams and Kasdan here are borrowing these pieces and sort of rejumbling them. So it's like, what if the heroic pilot was also the guy with the acerbic wit?
Yeah.
Because when we I want to get to talking about Kylo Ren, but
We're
I'm
never
going
to get there. He appears in the next scene. We're going to shut it down.
What I'm saying, though, is that's going to become its own conversation. But when confronted with Kylo Ren, Poe Dameron just zings him.
And that's why I would agree that he's my favorite character, but I don't necessarily think that he's the most interesting character, if that makes sense.
I agree.
Yeah.
He was my favorite to watch. Whenever he was on the screen,
Yeah.
I was like, yes, let's see more of this guy. But he certainly wasn't the most interesting of the new characters that have been introduced.
No, I would agree with
He's
that.
a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
He's really fun. You know. He's like, I can fly anything.
That's what I mean. When I watch Poe Dameron is the guy you want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. He's my favorite character. That's my guy. Like that's and whenever right from the second I knew was his confrontation with Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
So what happens? Do I speak first? How does this work?
It's tough to understand with the whole apparatus.
Yeah, I'm just like, this guy's the because it's almost that Spider-Man way of like, oh, I'm not afraid of you. I'm just going to keep making fun of you.
Right.
Well, and you also love him from the fact. I mean, his X-wing gets blown up. Mm-hmm. Instead of he could run with BB-8, he could get out of there. He turns around, he's sniping all the stormtroopers.
He busts out a sniper rifle and starts just taking people out.
Taking them out, and when he can, he takes a shot at Kylo Ren.
Yep.
I mean,
Which led to the most startling
so cool.
use of abrupt force powers in this movie. It was just like, holy crap, he stopped a laser blast.
Well, this is something I want to talk about. We'll get to we now have our introduction of Kylo Ren, our central villain of what I'm sure will be this franchise. But this movie we talked about that it possibly retreads some ground. It also does stuff that those movies never did. Things like this where you're just like, oh, how did nobody ever do that? How did it not come to that?
Explicitly showing the stormtroopers violently putting down people.
Or seeing the
population,
or to see when we talk about Poe Dameron sniping stormtroopers, to see stormtroopers be shot and bleed out and die. This movie. One of my favorite things about this movie is those are people. It's almost a direct renouncing of the prequels, where it's like those are individual people.
They directly say, "We don't need a clone army. My men are the best in the galaxy."
But I love
trained from birth.
They're men, they're women. Also, what I like is whenever you hear stormtroopers talk, it's a mix of male and female voices.
Yeah.
I mean, so much so that our commanding officer of the stormtroopers is a woman.
She was the Boba Fett of this movie.
It's Captain Phasma.
No, thank you.
Why no thank you? Now, see, that there's no reason to reject the character.
I just wish that we had more of her because there was such a
that's
big
the thing.
build-up.
There's a huge buildup, and they gave us. She was Darth Maul.
She's not dead though. That's why she's not Darth Maul.
I mean,
she could easily show up in that next movie and do a lot of stuff.
We didn't see her die. There was an allusion to her being thrown down a garbage chute, and then
if I didn't
minutes
see it,
later,
it didn't
a planet
happen.
that she's on blows up. I'm thinking she probably got away, but still, there was nothing in this movie. She does.
No, I agree. Not in this movie.
She tells the guy he needs to go to a physical, and that's like, ooh, big bad scary person.
She does. You're right that she's the Boba Fett, and that she has a presence to her. She has an aesthetic that's really cool. I like
she's shinier.
I like the idea of the character, though.
Would you like to know a crazy little factoid I know about from the visual companion about Captain Phasma?
Yes.
So the reason her armor is so shiny and silver is because it's made from the leftover spare parts of the Emperor's old personal shuttle that was like one of those Naboo cruisers that were all
the
silver.
shuttle. Yeah.
So that's why her armor's all silver. It's made from the old pieces of that.
Does it say why she gets that? Okay. Well, we're gonna write the book that explains why she gets that medal.
I'm sure there already is, and it just hasn't been published yet.
Yes, but anyway, we just the idea of the character that there's a hierarchy to the stormtroopers. We never really saw that in the other movies. We never saw commanding officers and such like that.
Does it ever say who the friend of the rebellion who gives Poe Dameron the plans?
That's one of the big questions walking away from this movie. Having seen it a few times now. So their interaction between him and Kylo Ren clearly knows this guy.
Yes.
It's like, you've gotten old, and and you've become something much worse.
Yep.
Yeah, great. Can I talk about, as a film nerd, legendary actor Max von Sydow?
Yeah.
Yep.
I've heard people go like, "Why is he in this? He's only in one scene." I'm like, because for one scene he kills it with. He brings such gravitas.
Yep.
The fact, even though we don't know anything about it, I feel the history because that guy is such a great actor. But yeah, I do like that, where it is like, oh, who is this guy?
Yeah.
When they said, at the beginning, an old ally, I'm like, oh, who from the original movies will this be? But there has been 35 years of time where they could have made new allies during that time.
My personal fan theory is he was a teacher of some kind from Luke's failed Jedi Academy.
Oh, I think he's involved in that Jedi Academy in some capacity.
Yeah.
I don't know in what way exactly, but I think I definitely get that feeling, because how else would he know Kylo Ren?
Well, because doesn't he say long before you called yourself Kylo Ren? He's like, I know your name. Well,
doesn't he talk about that you've betrayed the history of that, the history of your family?
Right.
So he knows he knows
the
lineage.
Deny where you come from.
Yeah. I think that's it.
So
You can't deny where you
good.
come from. You can't deny the legacy of your family. It's something like that.
He has 10 lines and they're all gold.
Yeah. No, that's why you hire Max von Sydow for one scene, because he is amazing.
And Lawrence Kasdan to write that.
Well, we can talk about. Lawrence Kasdan is one of my all-time favorite screenwriters. This is
Nothing
for
but gold.
those who don't know. This guy wrote Empire Strikes Back. He wrote Return of the Jedi. He wrote Raiders of the Lost Ark. He wrote and directed The Big Chill. I know that's not a sci-fi movie, but it's a really great movie.
And Jeff Goldblum's in it.
Jeff Goldblum is in it. But he also made an incredible Western called Silverado that I highly recommend people go out and see, with Kevin Kline and Jeff Goldblum. Kevin Costner. It's an amazing movie, and that's Lawrence Kasdan. The guy excels at writing dialogue. In particular, we've talked about is this movie's really funny.
Oh yeah,
which is, especially coming out of the prequels, kind of a shock.
Well, the prequels tried to be funny in parts, but because it was such a weird, morally gray story that wasn't very well told, all of the jokes kind of fell flat.
Well, because Lucas, great at ideas, great in aspects of world building. Not good with people, not good with dialogue.
Yeah.
These are not things he's good at. Emotions, dialogue, things. Lawrence Kasdan, exceptionally good at these things.
No, he's good at emotions and knowing what the emotional beats should be, but not in executing them.
Right, exactly. It's the subtlety, the nuances of it. So that's why everything in the prequels comes off. It's very on the surface. Mm-hmm. Everyone's telling you how they're feeling all the time. There's not a lot of nuance.
How abrasive sand is.
Yeah, there's not. There's not a lot of nuance, and you even see that jumping from. There's a reason everybody likes Empire so much more than the other Star Wars movies, and I think that's because you get the reins handed over to a Lawrence Kasdan.
Right.
You see a marked improvement in the dialogue and the character interactions. All that Han and Leia stuff, that's in Empire. That's not in Star Wars, really.
No.
You can sort of, in retrospect, go, oh, there were a couple things where clearly, but it's like, no, that was all Kasdan.
Right.
And then all that banter then when you get to him writing Raiders, you think about how much of that is that banter between Indiana Jones and any character, really. And that's him, and that feeling is back. And the other thing is, JJ's really good at that stuff too.
Yeah,
you look at his Star Trek movies or any of his TV shows. I'm
plowing through Alias right now, and
yep,
yeah.
And I want to talk about Alias in direct connection to the main character of this movie, actually. But we should talk about Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren sort of filling the Vader-esque. Directly.
Not even Vader-esque. He's trying to be Vader.
Yes.
That's the coolest thing about it to me is, while we can sort of go, oh, Poe Dameron's kind of like Han Solo. Oh, this is like this. Rey's kind of like Luke Skywalker. Kylo Ren is a character directly attempting to be a character from.
His main thrust of his mission personally is to be as powerful and as big of a badass as Vader.
Yeah.
He's gone as far as to he has Vader's charred helmet enshrined in his room, and so there's that part later on where he puts his helmet down in the bucket of something.
Yes.
Vader's ashes?
It does have that vibe to it.
Right.
I don't know how he would get that though.
How did he get Vader's helmet?
Wherever the helmet was, it's not that far a jump to think he would
on
get it.
Endor.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Yeah, but
However, I'm saying like the helmet would be
don't
amongst
blow
the
away in the wind.
Yeah, he collected ashes from that site. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
The thing that I really love about Kylo Ren and kind of his transformation to become Vader is that we get to kind of see this like origin story of a bad guy. I mean, that's
he's what Anakin should have been.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
We're seeing essentially it's kind of like right between Revenge of the Sith and then A New Hope, in the sense that we're getting this story of someone who's trying to establish their power, who's still figuring out the Force, who's still figuring out how do I run this kind of this legion.
Well, and that's something you get that's great in this movie is you get General Hux and Kylo Ren going back and forth and like bickering children. When you get to Star Wars, Tarkin and Vader, but Vader doesn't take anything from Tarkin.
Oh, I disagree, sir.
I disagree with
Leia
as well.
says only you could be holding Vader's leash.
It is
say
firmly
that?
established in that movie
Yeah.
that Vader
doesn't take
Vader's
shit
an
from anybody
underling.
but Tarkin.
But I feel
Tarkin's
like
the man in charge
I
there,
feel like
answering only to the Emperor. He's above Vader.
the thing that I have always gotten in that is that Vader was using Tarkin as a means to an end.
Because when Vader's choking
don't
out that
think
guy in the boardroom and Tarkin says, enough, Vader's like, okay, I'll back off.
Yeah.
He may not like it, but that's how the
sense I get is after Tarkin dies, it's almost like Vader takes some breaths and is like, now I'm in command. Now you
Right.
listen to me because that
I'll
guy's
be killing officers left and right.
Dad's
so that this doesn't
gone.
happen again. Yeah.
Dad's gone,
I
and
never
now
got that
I'm in
sense.
charge. That's the sense I got. Was like now I'm breathing easier, and he doesn't breathe that
Relatively
easy.
speaking,
Yeah, bad case of asthma on that guy.
Yeah.
That's what's up with him, right? It was an asthmatic.
all
That's
asthma.
it.
Yeah,
If they just had an inhaler.
that's what that's.
Volcano-induced asthma.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of
In fact,
particles flying around. It's
One
bad,
in
bad for the lungs.
49,000 people a decade.
Tossed into the volcanoes. Of,
Yep.
But no, so we get this character, the only character who is directly like attempting to tie himself to the previous franchise, which is a great idea for a villain. I feel like,
and is directly tied to the previous franchise, which is something we find out pretty early on in the movie, is that he's the son of Han Solo.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Leia.
yeah,
That's another thing that people were like,
They did not-
it's the son, and it's the same movie. And I'm like, no, like we waited 2 movies to figure out that everybody had been lying to us,
and then
and
like
that Vader's
a
Luke's
third
father.
of the way through this movie, we find out that.
and
I mean,
it's
really,
so casually thrown out.
yeah, it's
is
interesting.
cool.
It's not-
Casually thrown out by a 20-foot hologram of an evil like dark side monster. Sure.
Yeah.
no, but still casually
But it
thrown
wasn't-
out. It's
yeah,
not.
it wasn't
it's,
the big reveal.
It's not
that
the
we got.
it's not the end of Empire with I am your father. It's just
Right.
like your father, Han Solo. It's like, and then as an audience member, you're just like, wait, what? Hold on, go back. Did he say? Oh my God!
He means nothing to me.
Because that's great stuff. But then through this, we also, like you said, we see these stormtroopers slaughter this village. Poe Dameron is captured, and then but one stormtrooper does not fire his weapon, and we're introduced
He's
to
freaked out by all the carnage.
to the second part of our triangle of heroes, and that is Finn, played by
FN 287.
FN 287, dubbed Finn.
2187.
2187, dubbed Finn by Poe Dameron later in the movie, played by John Boyega.
Who's great.
Who is?
Yeah.
I mean,
gets
you've seen Attack the Block.
Oh, yeah.
You two haven't seen Attack the Block.
No.
I saw that movie and I said this guy's going to be a star. I loved that movie and I loved him in it, and I'm so glad to see somebody just.
This movie really showcased his range way more than Attack the Block did. In Attack the Block, he was kind of like the stoic, reluctant hero. In this, he's still very much the reluctant hero, but he's one that is like freaking out because of all the crazy shit that's happening around
Yeah,
him.
yeah. He gets the reluctant part from Han Solo and the I'm figuring this all out as I go from Luke Skywalker. I mean, that's what he really gets a lot of.
Oh, for sure.
He's the audience surrogate in the sense of like.
Yeah,
because Poe Dameron's who you want to be.
Yeah.
He's who you're like, oh my gosh.
If I got dragged into this,
This is
how
who I
everything
would be.
happened.
Yeah.
I
This
mean,
is a guy-
He's so relatable.
He
He's
is-
the stormtrooper who is relatable.
He is the most interesting character in the movie to me. When you talk about the Poe Dameron is not as interesting, I think Finn is the most interesting in terms of just the central concept of him is one of the coolest ideas for a Star Wars character. A stormtrooper is like, I'm not really cool with this, and I'm going to leave now, like a deserter, a guy
that
who
okay?
deserts the Empire.
Okay, bye.
Yeah. What a great idea, though. I mean, because once again, to take it back to that Nazi thing of going like, how many people do you think ended up in the Nazi movement or whatever? Like, well, I'm just kind of a German guy. I don't really. What are we doing? Yikes.
Though, I mean, we are led to believe that he didn't have a choice in this because the First Order soldiers are like programmed from birth.
And then you get into this whole thing about, well, then if they're programmed from birth, how is this guy not? I mean,
exactly. Like, where did that morality spark come from?
And there's a lot of speculation about, is he force sensitive? He's pretty good with a lightsaber.
But we do see a stormtrooper who's like well trained with a melee weapon, so I figure that's part of the stormtrooper training.
There's some. I mean, there's lots of pieces
people
here.
really like to read into that.
I think I mean personally, like maybe he's not force sensitive in my opinion. Or maybe he is a little bit. It's like this whole thing about... One of the things I like about this movie is it reestablishes the thing about the Force, which is it's a thing that flows through all beings and it's all about tapping into it. Mm-hmm. It's not something you possess.
No.
Anyone can be a Jedi.
Who can I don't know about that.
I mean, to me, that was always the thing I liked. That was what when people complain about midichlorians, that's what I feel that the midichlorians took away. It was the idea that like anyone, given the right circumstances, can tap into the Force.
Sure, but I think there's a big difference between tapping into the Force and becoming an elite, like, Force-based warrior. You see a character like Maz Kanata who can, like, close her mind, tap into the Force, feel the flow of energy and everything that's around her. Mm-hmm. But she even says, "I'm no Jedi."
Yeah, she's no Jedi.
And she's been around for 1,000 years.
But I think you'd also see that with Princess Leia. That I feel like she can tap into it,
right.
She feels it, but you're not seeing Jedi
but
Leia.
Given the circumstances, she could be. Is what I'm saying. I mean, I'm saying anyone conceivably could be.
That's the biggest throwaway I think in this movie.
What
is that in the original trilogy? There's explicit talk about Leia with the Force. Being force sensitive, the ability to be a Jedi, and in this, there's one brief scene where might indicate that she could be.
But this is one of the things I like about it, which is it's a choice too. I see Leia as somebody, she could have done that, but she chose not to become a Jedi.
Yeah, but they don't acknowledge that though.
But
they don't have to. It's not. But that's not what the movie's about either.
But you have levels of power. We established that in this movie. Is like Rey, who we'll get to.
Yeah, we're coming to our third part.
Very powerful with the Force. There are individuals who are like more powerful with the Force. Those are the ones who are going to become the Jedi.
Yeah.
I'm saying I don't know. I think
whether explain that with like
but I think we even
or their midichlorian count is higher.
Yeah, and the less we talk about midichlorians, the better. But even within the spectrum of Jedi, there are more powerful Jedi. I mean, you look at somebody like a Yoda is more powerful than I mean, Yoda's more powerful than Obi-Wan, isn't he?
Sure, but that's just given when 900 years old you reach a more powerful Jedi. Will you not be?
Yeah. I know. This is what I'm saying, though. It's a.
But Dooku is more powerful.
I'm saying with focus, with training, with the right circumstances, anyone could be a Jedi. Is kind of what I'm getting at.
Sure, I think.
I'm saying there are people who, much like athletics or anything else, there are people who are who have maybe more of an inclination for it, or more what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, have a greater proclivity to do it, and it comes easier to them.
I think anybody can be trained to be more Force sensitive. I don't think anybody can be a Jedi.
Well, then you get into this whole debate about what is a Jedi. Then is a Jedi more than somebody just who's able to use the Force and wield the lightsaber?
Yes,
for the light side, obviously, because then they become
Dark
something
Jedi.
else. Yes. I do actually prefer the concept of Dark Jedi to the concept of the Sith.
Well, the Jedi has become. I mean, I'm going to digress real hard.
Do
right
it.
Now.
No, don't.
Feel free to jump into.
No. We need to get through this movie. I could do a whole digression into the religious philosophies between the Jedi and the Sith. I will not.
It's true, and we do have to get to our commentary where we go to a theater and record this. That's at the end of this, by the way. There's another 4 hours after this where we sit down and just ooh and on, eat popcorn and do a microphone.
So we get this. We get Finn, who's going to be as he's called throughout the movie, a traitor to the First Order, which I love that concept too. And everyone keeps going, "Traitor, you know." Come on, man. I mean, you guys are terrible. I'm cool with burning this village, whatever. So we go up to our Star Cruiser or whatever this thing is.
It's a Star Destroyer.
Yeah,
it's totally a Star Destroyer.
Yeah.
Like, it's a next generation Star Destroyer, but it's a Star Destroyer.
There you go. And we this is also where we get to see Kylo Ren's some more of his Force abilities as he interrogates Poe Dameron.
I love the mental mind game of the Force power thing, which actually gave new context to a scene from Empire Strikes Back where Han is being like interrogated and tortured by Vader, and when he's like dumped back into the cell, he's like, he didn't even ask any questions.
Yeah.
Like, Vader could totally do this sort of thing.
And you have the same man who wrote that movie writing this movie, and so who knows if that's what he had been thinking.
Yeah,
this whole
I
time.
don't know.
Well, let's try to get Lawrence Kasdan on the show, and then we can. Larry, what were you thinking, man? But through this, one of the things I love about I'm a big fan of what Adam Driver, I don't think we meant who plays Kylo Ren, is doing, is the cold, detached manner in which he's not for the. I mean, there are key moments where he loses it, but like when he's telling Poe Dameron, he's like, "No, you're going to tell me."
No, what I love about the Kylo Ren character is that he plays it as aloof and attached, but he's always looking for a reason to stay angry. Constantly, he's looking for reasons to like keep that rage going because that's what gives him strength. And he's looking to increase that strength.
Yeah.
Because he's still in the process of being seduced by the dark side.
No, he's being seduced by the light. That's what's so fascinating about him.
You think
he
it's
says it on multiple
pullback?
occasions.
Oh,
he sees it as the light trying to infect him. He is like firmly in the dark side camp. But he sees it as the light tempting him back, which is what makes him so interesting.
Yeah. I get ready for my controversial statement. These characters are more interesting than the characters from the original movies.
Yes.
I think the contradictions within them are greater, and I think there's a wider range of options on where to take them.
I think they're just more interesting, hands down.
Yeah.
Like, there's more going on with each of these characters in terms of where they're coming from and where they're going. That it just.
Nothing will take away from the emotional connection we feel for those original characters. I'm not saying they're bad characters,
right? But
I think
Han is a smuggler, Luke is a farm boy, Leia's a princess. Yes, they become more complicated as the series goes on.
Actually, this is the I think I might have said this to you, Donovan. I don't know. I said this to somebody that I feel like Han was the most interesting character of the original franchise. He had the most depth and to him. I feel like suddenly everyone has the same depth and level of like the contradictions and stuff within them.
Of our main characters,
because it was always why Han was so popular. Why people were drawn to Han so much was because he was the character who had all that going on within him.
I disagree. I think that Luke actually was the one who was the most interesting because we see the most growth out of Luke throughout the three films. Because we start off with whiny farm boy, I was just going to go to Tashi Station to pick up some power converters, and then we see him.
I mean, he can take you as far as Anchorhead.
But then in Empire Strikes Back, he starts to get cocky because he was the one who blew up the Death Star, and then suddenly he thinks, "Oh, I know everything about the Force," and then he meets Yoda and gets his butt whooped. And then we go into Return of the Jedi, where he's now actually established himself as a Jedi and is slow. So I think that we see the most growth out of him.
I agree. I think you do see the most growth out of him.
Which is why I think that we were going to get here eventually. But I think that Finn, although that Rey seems to have the most Luke Skywalker-like story, I feel that Finn is going to be the one who grows the most over the trilogy, kind of a Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
Can I make a prediction for Episode 8 just right now?
I was going to get to that later, but go for it.
Boba Fett?
I'm saying
if it's anything about Boba Fett,
isn't
we're
going to be
done.
a direct continuation. We're going to cut to whenever it is that Finn wakes up. That's going to be the opening of the movie.
Possibly.
Like, I think he's our through line. I think he's our.
Do you think that there's going to be a time in between then, or do you think it's going to be
not as like big of a gap as we saw between any of the other movies? But I feel like there is going to be some kind of time jump, and Finn's going to be our like leap back in when he goes and wakes up.
He's our audience surrogate,
right?
I mean, yeah, he is. Well, is he our audience surrogate?
Yes.
Let's get to our third piece of the triangle of.
I also want to just really quickly.
Well, actually, we haven't gotten to them escaping. Wait,
all of the characters are as interesting as Han Solo.
Yes,
and again, the one exception would be Poe Dameron, because he has no contradictions in him. He is a lion.
We like him, but he's not as interesting.
Exactly,
no, I agree. No.
And I think what you're referring to back with, like, why are people interested in Han Solo? It's very simply Because we all want to be Han Solo. We always want to have the snarky comments. We always want to be in control. We want to be cool about everything.
And a giant 7-foot-tall furry sidekick
is your best friend.
Yeah.
Everybody, I mean, it's the Calvin and Hobbes syndrome.
And yet
like,
everybody
wants that.
And yet at the same time, he's the one who, at least in the beginning, is the most selfish, is the one who cares the least about doing anything heroic.
We've talked about this before, but think about who in Ghostbusters you want to be the most. Venkman.
And he's the one who doesn't give a crap about busting.
But he's not the audience surrogate. That's Ernie Hudson. Right?
Yes. Oh, no, completely.
So then that's Finn. Finn is Ernie Hudson from Ghostbusters.
Let's be careful a little bit in taking this down the...
I'm saying from a character standpoint, read the scripts. Yeah. Don't look at the actors, John. Wow. I'm not saying that Finn was played by Ernie Hudson. I know they're different people.
Good. I'm glad we've established that.
But actually, I had no idea.
I'm trying to in the piece of things, but it's
okay. So
on the Star Destroyer,
we don't meet.
We have to do the escape and everything off of that, right? I mean, they take a type.
No. Ray meets BB-8 first.
Does that happen before?
What happens is, and I know this scene exactly, is they bring on Poe Dameron, and he looks around and he's all excited because he's actually in this. We go into the interrogation scene. We go back to the hangar, and Finn goes up into the whatever that ship is that
Transport shuttle.
Exactly. Takes off his helmet. That's when Captain Plasma talks to him. Thank you.
Or Plasma.
Phasma.
Might as well.
But then...
Brienne of Tarth, whatever.
But then we get that slide.
That wipe.
And we zoom in on Rey's glasses, the goggles.
Yes.
And that's when we start to see her as a scavenger.
Great cut. Great transition. I was telling you about this, Donovan, that JJ had to fight to get those wipes in. Disney was like, "Nah, it's a little old-timey, isn't it?"
Exactly.
And he's like, "Yes, but it's Star Wars. It's not old-timey. It's Star Wars. It's how it's the visual language of these
what
movies.
They look like."
So we go to the third member of our triangle of heroes, which is Rey.
She's so cool,
played by Daisy Ridley, somebody who's never been in any movie.
She's my favorite character of this movie.
Yeah, she's the most interesting, and in my opinion, she's the one who fits in perfectly to this universe.
Everything about her is like, yep, this makes sense.
She's great. Oh yeah, I mean, and you'll hear no dissent from me about.
And what I really enjoy about her character is she is so excited with the now mythology and stories of 4, 5, and 6. Because that's the beautiful thing about this movie is we're now watching the next generation of people being like, well, we don't really know what happened, and this is kind of weird and
Han Solo,
strange.
the old rebel general?
Yeah,
Han Solo the smuggler.
Yeah, exactly. But we, as audience members, get to be like, no, we know exactly what happened, right? So we're going on this journey again with these people. When you watch The Force Awakens, you're reliving everything from 4, 5, and 6 that you love, and that's what makes this movie amazing. When you watch that movie, you're like, no, this is actually a franchise that I've loved forever.
Right.
And here's why. And, oh, yeah, that's right. He was a smuggler first. And, oh, yeah, that's right. Luke, Luke Skywalker? Oh, who's
the ship that made the Kessel Run in 14 parsecs?
12.
Yeah. 14. Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. I think Rey is the best addition. I think she's the most interesting character. Han Solo is my favorite, though. Because Harrison Ford puts that character back on.
We'll get to him. We'll get to him when we get to him. Yes.
Spoiler: Harrison Ford's
he's
in the movie.
in the movie. But no. I mean, I have many things to say about Han Solo. But so we're introduced to Rey. Rey's a scavenger. They make that clear. And specifically, as we talked about, Jakku was obviously the site of some battle between the rebels and the Empire. She's scavenging old, mostly Imperial ships.
Well, we only
vehicles.
see her inside the
she's living inside of an AT-AT.
Sure, but that's just a good empty box to live in.
Yeah, I'm just saying, we don't. But it's just interesting that we don't see.
Tough to live in a TIE fighter, John.
And I do love the helmet. She's got the X-wing pilot helmet.
That is the one thing she does have from the Rebel side.
And she's got a little doll that looks like.
And she's got the doll that looks like an X-wing pilot.
Right.
These are both very cool things, and once again add to the mythic nature of what has come before.
Rey is also the one character that raises probably the most questions of any character in these movies.
This is true. Well, we know that Rey has been left. She's orphaned.
She was orphaned on Jakku.
Yeah.
We don't know why she was left there. We don't know who left her there.
For a very long time, she's been there, which we established by the scenes where she's scratching the hash marks.
All we know is she's adamant about waiting there for whoever that was that left her there. She says her family to come back and meet her.
Yes. Which is part of the mystery of, and I'm sure will continue to be the mystery of this trilogy.
Yeah.
Really is Rey's lineage. We can get into theories at some point here.
All we know is, like,
but
going through this movie, she is extremely strong with the Force.
I think
Yes.
that's the thing, though, that made this movie most reminiscent of the original trilogy. Is we don't need to have all of that backstory. We don't need to have all of the answers. We're kind of thrown right into the middle of it and gone. You know,
Yes.
If you think about the first movie, we're starting in the middle of a battle scene.
We're starting in the middle. We're starting on chapter 4 of something too.
Exactly, and so that's why.
And you're just like, let it go.
But we just accept it because we
Yes.
have enough information to get us going, and then it's like, all right, we're in. Let's
Yep.
do this.
And the scene you're talking about where she has the X-wing, I mean, she does have a lot of Luke Skywalker in her for sure. And that to me is her sitting on that AT-AT staring off in the distance is very
As
much
the
our
ship's,
twin.
like, ascending
It's
into
our
the
twin
sky.
sons
Yeah.
of Tatooine moment from that first movie. I really where it is just like it's about looking out at the destiny to come or whatever that if
what
only
could be in the horizon, but I'm stuck here.
and I mean
What was interesting,
made
though, is the
even more
duality
poignant with that helmet and to see
But specifically because with Rey, it's a choice. With Luke, he felt like he was stuck there
Mm-hmm.
because he had, like, obligations. Rey doesn't have any of those obligations.
Yeah.
She could leave if she wanted to, but her choice is to stay.
yes.
So she's staring at a destiny that's, like, never going to come to her. She needs to go to it.
She has no harvest that she has to stay for.
Right.
You know, she's not waiting around.
There's
They
there's
don't
no
need a droid that speaks bocce.
That's right.
but there's no, and also there's no Uncle Owen or Aunt Beru as well, who
Right.
are keeping her there in some way, or I mean, or at least Uncle Owen. Aunt Beru seemed a little, had some compassion for Luke's wanderlust.
No, it was manipulative. Bruce an old hag.
Oh,
She's a charred skeleton by the end of that movie,
Yeah.
so.
Well,
by the end of that, yeah, by the end of the first act.
Sure, she was. I'm pretty sure she was still a skeleton by the end.
We never saw any evidence of that.
Look, they can do a lot with bacta tanks.
Yeah,
that's
we
all
don't
I'm
know.
saying.
We don't know. But the other thing about Rey is she's in this terrible place, but she seems to be handling herself very well.
Yeah.
Oh, and
as established numerous times throughout the movie. This is not a woman to be trifled with.
Why do you keep taking my hand?
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite lines in the movie.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
It's like,
that
you see the hero grab the damsel.
We're so used to that imagery.
and she's just like, "Why are you doing this? I can
yeah.
run
Yeah,
without you holding
stop,
my hand."
Stop doing that.
Um,
And I love
also,
that
when Finn is drinking out of the same watering hole or whatever,
that
sees
big,
that she's
horrible
in
butt pig
trouble,
monster?
starts to
Yeah.
run, and then by the time he gets
He stops.
Exactly, he sees it.
Boys thrash him, and I love the look he gives of like, did anybody else?
Boyega
see
does
that?
have that same Harrison Ford quality of the understated. He can do a joke with just his eyes like that, where he's just like, "Oh, okay, I guess she's got it." But he does so much with so little. That guy, his comic timing, his delivery,
Oh, yeah.
he's got massive amounts of charisma.
Some of my favorite interactions in the movie are between him and BB-8.
Yes,
We need to talk about BB-8.
Yeah, we do.
BB-8, people might know him. He's the beach ball droid.
Which Han Solo is on, out of my way, ball.
Great stuff. I think it's just as simple as move ball.
Yeah.
No time to deal with this thing. He's
BB-8's our new droid.
Well,
yes, he's our central droid.
The concern
he's
is
Poe
that
Dameron's,
he's replacing R2D2.
Yeah,
And I went in.
that's the
thinking,
term for
like,
it.
I mean, he's a small astromech droid.
Yeah,
he's a
I mean-
BB unit, but they're like a type of droid that is meant to be on a ship to service that ship.
I didn't.
while
I've
they're
never
on it.
heard astromech. So
Really?
is it in one? Is it in the movies? Do they refer to like
They
R2 as an
refer- in the
astromech?
prequels, they definitely refer to R2 as an astromech.
All
droid.
right. Well, then that's why
how they
that's why I
introduce him,
forgot.
this small astromech droid.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Then that's
Saves
probably
him.
why I don't remember. But anyway, yeah.
The idea that he was going to come and replace R2D2, and I was like, oh, I don't know how I feel about that. You don't even remember that by the end of the movie. I
Well,
mean,
no,
he's
and
he's endearing it in a new way.
I was going to say
and
I
just
don't really see him there as the replacement. I mean, he's your central droid in that sense.
He's the replacement in the same way that all these new characters are replacing the old characters.
Exactly.
Yeah. But R2D2's like this sassy droid who's like got a mind of his own. BB-8 just kind of like, I just want to make sure that everything's
BB-8
okay.
is Groucho Marx. He's constantly going like, "You serious about this? Really? Okay."
Really? You think
Doing
so?
the like look from one, look to the other, look to the one, look to the other, and then just like, "All right, going with it."
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's true.
Give you a thumbs up with a lighter.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean, like-
do. Yeah, really.
Like give him some eyebrows and a cigar, and like,
He's very endearing.
There's
He's
a meme of
very
that.
he's adorable. I mean, people. I just saw a woman today with a BB-8 purse.
But he's
You
also
know,
a little. I mean, he's a little more. You feel like he's a little more helpless than
Than R2.
Than R2.
Yeah,
Right,
you
like-
do get that
smaller.
sense.
right. Like Ray rescues him from whatever that guy Tito, who's trying to like take
Is
him
it
for
Tito?
parts. It's Tito.
Tito Jackson's getting some more work. That's good.
That's
to see.
exactly. She said that, and I was like,
yeah.
good for you, Tito. It might be T-Do. I don't know.
Yeah,
it sounds
probably.
like
I don't
Tito.
think there's a Star Wars character who's just named Tito.
Maybe.
It's probably T-Do. I'm sure.
I don't know, but Tito, who's trying
But
to,
yeah,
he's
she
got him
does
in a
see
net.
that, and we do see this.
But then there's
this
that Han Solo
partnership.
moment of like she rescues him and is like, okay, the town's that way. And she's like, no,
Yeah.
don't come with me.
Yep.
No, don't.
The other thing that's endearing. I mean, the noises that this thing makes. I mean, it purrs basically in some
that's
scenes.
what I think that R2, the sound. I mean, obviously, a lot of the sounds were made from like actual babies and stuff that they morphed, and I felt that R2 was more human. I felt this was more of a pet. And
Yeah,
Which is-
true.
which is
It feels
interesting.
like a
in the
lovable
way
dog.
that BB-8
Which is interesting
interacts
because
with
this
people.
was voiced by two humans,
Yep.
Interesting.
two human actors.
One of
who-
which being Bill Hader.
the other one being Ben Schwartz,
Yep.
a couple of improv actors who came in and
For
messed.
real?
Yeah,
Ben
they tried to
Schwartz
give him
and Bill Hader
They
are-
tried to give him a human voice at first, and then they're like, it doesn't really
So
work.
it's the
they
two
changed
of
it.
them, and then messed around with a soundboard basically. And they are credited as BB-8 voice consultants.
That makes BB-8 so much.
And they're
better.
working on more Star Wars voices, I think. That's what I heard.
Well, Bill, I mean, they're just people who are friends with JJ who
Yep.
happen to get
Who
into
love
this.
Star Wars.
Bill Hader was also the voice of the computer on the USS Vengeance and Star Trek Into Darkness as well.
I didn't know.
Yeah, if you listen to the things, it's just Bill Hader's voice, and huge Star Wars fans, both of them, of course. As once again, most
Everybody.
people. I don't really
As
meet a lot of people
everybody.
who are like, nah, I don't
I
like
think
Star
we
Wars.
have more people now that are Star Wars fans because
Yep.
of this movie.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think all the kids
absolutely.
who have not seen much more, and they're getting this.
But in a similar way to R2-D2 in the original movie, BB-8 carries information that's important to the rebellion
A map.
or the resistance.
To Luke Skywalker.
A map to Luke Skywalker, and this is a key point of the movie. We can talk about how little Luke Skywalker is in this movie, but it's all about the journey to find Luke
Where's
Skywalker.
Luke?
His
Where is
presence
Luke Skywalker?
is overbearing over
Even I
over
mean,
the whole
when the
movie.
first time that they say Luke Skywalker and Rey is like Luke Skywalker,
he was real.
yeah, I thought he was just a myth, in that sense. And so, yeah, I mean, then some shenanigans happen on the planet, and one of the best reveals in the movie, it might as well be a character, is the entrance of the Millennium Falcon into this movie.
Well, yeah, and this is after Finn and Poe Dameron escape from.
They have this awesome escape where Poe Dameron flies a TIE fighter because, as he says, he can fly
Yep.
anything. Because
And I
there's
was like,
nothing.
whoa, these things really move. That's what I love.
and because Finn needs a pilot.
Yes,
That's-
I love
Yeah.
that. Why are you
It's the
rescuing
right
me?
thing to do.
You need a pilot. Huh?
I need a
God
pilot.
damn- Poe Dameron is the. I mean, yes, he may be flawless, but he is the coolest guy
I'm
ever.
not saying he's not
Yeah.
cool. I'm just saying that he's the most static out of any of the characters.
And I think I predict we will see that change
Which
as
is
I'm sure he will
totally
have a
great.
larger
Well,
role.
and not
as
to
episode
mention
8.
him trying
We'll
to
get to know him
get
more.
away in the TIE fighter and then being stuck by that cable was one of the. I mean, I didn't expect that at all, and I thought that was
I got
perfect.
this. I got this.
I'll figure it. Yeah,
John Williams, of course, returning to do the score.
that score.
I think this is the first time we hear what I would say is Poe Dameron's theme, which is a heavy horns, sort of triumphant march that we'll hear later in the movie when the X-Wings show up.
Ray's theme, fucking man, I love that.
It's good stuff.
The second
so
time
good.
through, that's what
The-
I noticed more. Is
on the
score in that
on the
movie
soundtrack,
is
that piece of music is
perfect.
called "The Scavenger," which I think,
It's so good.
It's very good stuff. John Williams continues to be the master of film scores.
Yeah.
Obviously, retreading a lot of ground here for.
We get the Imperial March. We get like
You get the Imperial March once in a very twisted way that's really awesome.
But what you do, and what is great, is at jumping way ahead when
Well, we're going to start moving through some of the parts.
When
of this
Rey
movie.
has the lightsaber and you play the Luke's theme, but you switch the horns and the strings, so the strings are not playing and the horns are doing this like really arpeggio thing underneath. It is so good. Just the simple inversion is like this makes a huge difference. Like just the texture of this over Rey versus Luke was like this is. And the whole movie, like I said, the second time through, the film or the score to the film is just like so
where you
good.
have the ability to really listen to it.
It's so rich.
Yeah.
That's what I'll say. One thing about this movie, if you can see it twice, I would recommend doing it. The first time through, I was so worried about this movie being good and about like not walking away from this movie like I did with the prequels. That, like, yes, I enjoyed it, but the second time through, it's just I was able to sit down and really appreciate all the bits and pieces coming together to make this great movie.
You got to breathe.
Yeah.
But here's what I'll say about that. I had the similar feeling that you're talking about for the first 20 minutes, and then it just got me.
Oh, sure.
It just swept me up in its.
Yeah.
And we'll get now to there's this awesome. They take the Millennium Falcon. The reveal of the subtle reveal of the Millennium Falcon is like legitimately breathtaking because we're going to take that ship.
Every single screening I've been in, people have cheered.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's a character in this franchise.
And that, honestly, that and the next scene are my favorite scenes in the entire movie. And part of that is because I feel that was the most reminiscent of the original trilogy, was when Finn and Rey fly the Millennium Falcon for the first time. They have the TIE Fighter chase through the old Star Destroyer.
Oh,
That was
so
one of my
Incredible
favorite
stuff.
scenes.
But also,
and that old computer screen when he sits down at the turret,
just to see that turret, we haven't seen, that's only in the first movie. It's not in
and
the
how
sequels.
he's seeing how clunky it is. That's the other thing, is like they're showing the passage of that 35 years so well. Of like, ooh, all of this is old. Oh, this
That
doesn't
ship
work.
is garbage.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
according to everyone in the original trilogy, that ship was garbage during the
Yeah.
original.
That's the thing that I always thought was so interesting.
Wanted it.
I know
the thing. It's like,
but I mean that's what I was going to say. It's always so interesting to me that everybody referred to that ship as garbage because it's the coolest ship in Star Wars.
It's in the same way that like Serenity and Firefly. It's like on the outside it does look like garbage, but she's still got a few tricks in her sweetheart.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look like garbage on the outside. It's such an
little
awesome.
But compared to like other ships that you see, like
But-
that are all shiny and sleek and
Right.
awesome, and for characters in that universe,
but
this
it's
looks
got-
like a pile of scrap.
But to us, it's got character,
Sure. Yeah.
and that's why we love it. And that this reveal of it, and just the way that the camera just moves to it, doesn't cut to it. It just swings over to it. And you're like, "That's the Falcon."
Well-
Like it did. Like I got hit with a physical impact of seeing it on screen, and it's the first classic character we see.
and I love that Rey isn't like, oh, that's the Millennium Falcon.
No.
She finds out later when Han Solo shows up.
This is the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, exactly. Like, no way. I've been
And the
calling
way
this
that it
garbage
like skids across the ground and bounces because she doesn't really know how to fly it. I also love the moment of him getting in the chair and going, "You can do this, you can do this," and then she's starting the control. She's like, "You can do this, you can do this."
I love there in the first screening I was at when she's like crashing into stuff with the Millennium
Yeah.
Falcon. There are people in the crowd who are just like, "No, you're driving it wrong."
yeah, exactly. And apparently Daisy Ridley talked about. I saw an interview with her. She talked about she was filming scenes doing it, and Harrison Ford was like, "That button doesn't do that. This lever does this."
Of course he did.
He knows how to fly the Millennium Falcon.
Damn straight he does.
Well, that's
Yeah.
what him and Oscar Isaac were talking about. That because of those films, so many fans now have written books on how these machines work. And so, what started off as Harrison Ford going, "How do you drive this?" and George Lucas going, "I don't know. You like do whatever you want." Now, because he's touched certain buttons and things, they have pamphlets going, "These are the buttons that you can touch because we know what they do, and these are the buttons that you can do whatever you want because nobody's touched them."
Same thing happened with Doctor Who and the TARDIS. The TARDIS flies a specific way. Different switches do different things. William Hartnell, the very first Doctor, made that clear when they were just like, "We need you to go over and you're gonna have to open the door and the camera will be here." I love the story of him, and he goes, "No, because the button to open the doors is over there. I can't be standing there." And they're like, "Nobody will notice." He's like, "They'll notice." And this was 1960s, and he's like, "No, the people who watch this show will notice, and they know that the button to open the door is there."
Right.
And that's true, and that's those kind of details. So we get to the Millennium Falcon gets away. Rey and Finn are on it. They get pulled into this big ship. Finn even says, at what we're all thinking, which is it's the First Order.
It's a big freighter with an open docking bay that swallows the Millennium Falcon.
It's very dark. It's very
dark
ominous.
Red lights.
The
are coming
music
out of
is
it.
doing. Yeah,
You're
I mean,
just like, oh god, the First Order's got them.
I knew what was happening though.
But it was Han motherfucking Solo.
And he gets a hero's entrance into this movie. He and Chewie. That shot they're hiding. They get that shot. The camera moves up to the door. It opens. There's like 2 beats, and then they just step into this film. And it is like when we saw it, I love it. There was people cheered, but it was started with one guy in our screening. There was one guy with a yeah, and then just everybody joined into it. And we get his first line, which is in the trailer, which is "Chewie, we're home." And it's just like that. Once again, there's almost a meta nature to that. We're just like, yeah, we are home. We're on the Millennium Falcon.
Here's
Han and
Solo.
Chewie.
Yeah.
And I love his line, too, where he's like, this person stole from this person. It's like, well, yeah, you tell him that Han Solo just stole back the Millennium Falcon for good. And you're just like, yes! This is bad. And this is, I mean, you know, you talk about, like, who do people want to... This is what I put my money down for this, you know. There's a reason that line is at the end of that trailer.
Yeah.
This character, we can talk... We'll get into, like... I can't even almost express how much this character means to me, and Harrison Ford's performance as him, and to see him instantly be that guy again.
Oh, yeah.
There's no, you know, some people, there's been a lot of talk over the years about how gruff and grumpy Harrison Ford is and what his feelings about Star Wars are, but boy, you don't feel that for a second. Nope. He is that guy.
His interactions with Chewie are some of the best parts of this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
one of the best, honestly, one of my favorite moments in this movie are when they're going back outside on Starkiller Base, and Chewie just picks up his jacket and turns and looks at Han, and Han, like, looks at him like, you're not my mom, but it's like this loving. It's this loving, like, Chewie's like, here, put your jacket back on. There's like a.
Chewie's like, come on, you catch your death.
Exactly. There's a moment there, and it's like that was beautiful. Like these guys have worked together so long that he's catching everything.
That relationship means the world to me, and I'm sure to a lot of Star Wars fans.
Oh,
that
so
good. the bond between those two is as important as any relationship in Star Wars.
So I'm gonna leap ahead a little bit. The biggest bomb in this movie is Han Solo gets killed.
Yes,
that's the one thing I've been dancing on eggshells, not saying around people who haven't seen.
Of course,
movie.
yeah.
The heartbreaking part for me wasn't when he died.
Yeah,
it was when we see the Millennium Falcon. It's just Chewie in the cockpit. Yes. That was so just like, oh God, he's alone now, Chewie.
Yeah.
No.
But now he's got. I mean, there is a lead up of like, too bad you're not taking this job because I think Chewie really likes you.
Right.
You know, there's this connection between Rey and Chewie.
Yeah, for sure.
That's great. I mean, her piloting the Falcon is so awesome. She's just like the coolest. She's awesome. I mean, she's so cool in this movie.
Yeah, she's
like,
great.
All of her Force
intuitively
stuff.
knowing how to fix the Falcon in specific ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Because
Luke was a pilot, but he never figured that out.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
but
that's
that was
the thing.
Like, Luke was a great pilot. Anakin was like the builder. Like he was also a big pilot, but he was also like the machine guy.
Yeah.
He built C-3PO for that matter.
And don't say machine guy; it's too soon. All right, artificial.
Yeah,
more machine now
but
than
also,
man, that's all I'm saying.
Well, this is where you really get that nostalgia for that scene where he walks under the cockpit again, and he gives a classic Harrison Ford half smirk of just like, I'm back. Like he's in the
Which is
jacket,
quickly followed by the grumpy Harrison Ford, like, who messed with my cockpit?
Yeah, exactly. And then we get what we haven't seen in the longest time, which is Han Solo's a smuggler.
Yeah,
and he's like two-timing some guys, and you know, like
the Guavian Death Gang shows up in Conja Club, and he's borrowed money from both.
Yeah. Right. It's something we get to see more of that than we've ever seen in this.
I'm gonna talk my way out of it like I do every time.
Oh, no, yeah, every time. Yeah, the classic Harrison Ford point. Yes, I do every time.
Yeah.
When have I ever double crossed you? You have twice.
And I love the adds
and then the pause. Wait. When was the second time?
And even Chewie gives a nod of like, yeah, that's true, you did, man. You know, like this idea, or he's smuggling raftars, and it's just like, how'd you even get them? We used to have a much bigger crew. Where are they? And the thing slams up against.
No, its eye slams up against the window.
There's
it's
one.
Just like, oof.
Let's get the casual nature with Han Solo is doing this. Please tell me you're not smuggling raftars. I'm smuggling raftars. Like,
yeah. Have you ever heard of the whatever
the Trillium Massacre?
The Trillium Massacre? No, good.
Which these raftars are really awesome. They're like
big,
rolling
like one of the
balls
big, the only CGI.
It's like
thing.
Mike Wazowski got taken over by Venom. That's essentially what.
Yeah,
Venom squid.
Big,
Mike Wazowski.
Like Cthulhu amoebas.
Yeah. Which I've heard some Star Wars fans be like, "That's not Star Wars. We've never seen anything like that." I'm like,
so?
We've never seen anything like that because we haven't seen anything like that. Who's to say?
Yeah.
I'll go with almost any design of alien in Star Wars.
The
There's nothing
Rancors
to be
are cool, but Raftars are.
But the other thing is, we never see anything like a Rancor before that. You know, I mean, everything has to be. You have to do new things.
We've never seen a Cantina band look like that before.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I'm
exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's
I
the thing. Everything that's in Jabba's palace and Jedi, we had never seen anything like that before.
I'm still picking out new aliens in the background of Jabba's palace.
There's so many, and that's the thing. I like that JJ has continued that. He's introduced this new thing, which also feels like a very JJ kind of monster
I'm
as
going
well,
to be, like,
having been a
picking
fan
apart,
of his stuff.
like background characters in Maz Kanata's like watering hole for the rest of
Which
my
is
life.
what it should be. That's the point of an awesome scene like that.
It's true.
And so we get this cool scene of we get a very Indiana Jones moment from him too when he's running and he punches that guy like mid run. That's
and then tosses him back at the Rathtar.
Yep. Yeah, that's the Han Solo I want to see. I mean, instantly it's just we're back in this character's world, and they escape through this. We also see Finn almost get taken by a Rathtar.
Rey doing she's constantly doing like fancy stuff with machines and mechanical stuff.
Yeah.
Like she figures out how to use shut down the doors inside the freighter almost instantly so that she can cut off the tentacles of these Rathars grabbing Finn and oh, you should have seen it. The door that was lucky. And then
Yeah.
That's such a good line.
It's good stuff. So they get out of that. They get out of this situation and they get away in the Falcon.
Of course.
Light
speed from
But the
inside the
interesting
ship.
thing is that we see that Chewbacca gets shot, which is something that we never got.
Yep.
We rarely. This is also one of the first movies where I've ever seen people wounded in a Star Wars movie. Really, I mean, yes, people have lost limbs at the expense of a lightsaber. But I'm talking about we rarely see anybody get shot in the arm. Almost every shot is a kill shot in Star Wars, or it's stormtroopers who are missing, or that one time they used a stun setting.
Yes, Leia in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, she gets shot outside the bunker.
Oh, she does. Yeah.
But even so,
it's
that's
pretty rare.
about it.
And Luke gets shot at the beginning of Return of the Jedi. His robot hand gets shot.
Yep. I was
that's
going to
true.
point that out, but
That doesn't really reger as a wound in the same way
Yeah.
because
you see the skin underneath. It's awesome.
you know what I'm saying? He's not like
A Wampa loses an arm.
Poor
Well, a
Wampa.
lot of things get. Well, that's the way I'm used to seeing people get wounded. Is if somebody gets their arm cut off with a lightsaber.
The
So
guy
insensitive.
But this is, and then we get this great moment where Finn is trying to patch up Chewie, and that's not going well.
Yes.
because
He
it's
almost
Chewie.
killed me 6 times, but I'm sure he's a nice guy.
Yeah,
But I love that because that's the introduction of Rey to Han Solo in the sense that she's now in the co-pilot seat and is helping him figure out.
you need a co-pilot. I've got one. And this is great stuff. Oh, and he does one of the coolest things Han Solo's ever done, which is he goes to light speed while landed in a docking bay.
I love. She's like, "Can you do that?" He's like, "I never asked that question until it's
after
over."
until after I've done. Yeah, that's the cool. And
That's everything about Han Solo you need to know right
Yep.
there.
I mean, so I was talking to somebody about this. They're like, "Is this the best Han Solo movie?"
Yeah.
I think it is in terms of just awesome Han Solo moments. This
Over
movie,
Empire.
I mean, Empire.
Yeah,
I do
Empire-
love an Empire when
I'm
he's like, "Then
tempted
I'll
to go
see you
Empire.
in hell."
He
I
does
love
have-
All of his
that line.
interactions with Lando and all of his
it's
stuff with
close.
Leia.
It's this and Empire the best. Personally, for me, like I said, Han
I
Solo
think
is
that
my
you might
guy.
think that
and-
this is the best Han Solo because of what we know about Han Solo from the original. I mean,
Yes.
I feel like if you had to watch them individually, you might not say that this is the best Han Solo.
Well,
but
and part of it is the last time I saw him, it was in Jedi, and I have nothing against Jedi, but Han kind of takes more of a back seat in Jedi.
yeah, but there's
He does-
some,
he
there's
does
some,
on
but some of
Endor.
my
He
favorite.
does some cool
Some
stuff.
of my favorite Han Solo lines are from Return of the.
Yes, some of the best lines. But I mean, in terms of
Chewie, always thinking with your stuff.
in terms of the actions of Han Solo, there's some great stuff between him and Leia. I love the
News,
whole.
we are now a part of the tribe. Oh, what I always wanted.
No, he's
I
great.
get it. I get it. You like him.
CPO, you tell
Yeah.
that slimy piece of worm red bill.
No.
Get no such
Or,
thing.
or the line where he's
Look,
like, "I thought
Han's
you were
always
blind.
gonna-
I can see now."
That's one of my
a
favorite
little
moments.
higher.
Yeah.
A little higher.
Yeah, it's good
It's
stuff.
Lethal Weapon right there.
That-
Lando and Han and Lethal Weapon.
Was anybody else said that Lando wasn't in this?
No.
No, I feel
He'll
like
be in
I'm
the
the.
second
I
one.
feel like I'm the
He'll
only
be in
guy
the
who
next
just-
one.
I
You think
love
so?
Lando Calrissian.
I'm wondering if he's going to come back or not.
He's the ultimate player. I mean, that's,
I don't
that's
think
his
he
thing.
has to necessarily.
He doesn't have to. I'm just.
I've
curious
gotten
if
my
he
fill
will.
of him in Rebels, so.
Or a statue. I want a statue of him or something.
Just anything to acknowledge. But no, I want to see
A
Billy Dee
casino.
Williams back as Lando Calrissian. Just even if you just walk by him when he's got a lady on each arm and he winks at somebody,
I
you're
want
just
him to
like,
be at the funeral of Han Solo.
there you go. I don't know what that. You think that's going to happen in the next movie?
I don't know.
That would kind of contradict with the time jump theory. I
I
think.
mean, there's no body, unfortunately.
well, no, but that doesn't mean you can't have a funeral.
Sure.
I don't think that we're going to get that because if
Celebration
we
of life.
did, I don't think that we would then see Rey and Chewbacca taking off at the end of this.
That's
movie.
true. I feel like that would have already have happened.
Yeah.
If
And
they
if
left.
you see the dress that Leia is in at the end when
It
that
could
happens,
be-
it feels like that just.
Yeah,
you get
and Rey's dress here.
There's a moment near the end of this movie where you get the emotional impact of that to a certain extent between Rey and Leia, where you get the equivalent of that, where there's that moment of grief.
What's so
between
powerful about that is like those two characters had not met up until this point, but they both share that just like instant, whether it be because of the Force or because they just like they know that like someone important to us just died, and we need to like console each other because of that.
Skipping, I want to. We can move through the movie a bit faster.
Is where we're at.
We haven't talked about Supreme Leader Snoke or General Hux for that matter, but General Hux is pretty easy to grasp.
Supreme Leader Snoke is the second biggest question coming out of this movie,
of course,
and the biggest character.
That was such a good like. Is the guy in charge of these evil guys a giant?
Yeah,
but then he. I mean,
hologram. Yeah,
I was kind of glad he was a hologram because I just didn't know where they were going to go with a giant. Like I was just like,
but why would they?
How
make
do
him
you
a giant
confront
if he's a hologram?
that?
Why do you have a giant head of the Emperor? And
I still think he's
Empire
little.
Strikes Back?
See, that's the thing.
I still think he's a little guy.
I think it matters.
We got
none.
more of Snoke in this movie than we did of the
Emperor
in
the
anything
Emperor
before
in
Jedi.
Empire Strikes Back.
Right.
Yeah, we just get that one scene of him in Empire.
Yeah,
we
with
get him a
the
couple times.
Giant
there.
frog eyes.
Yeah, in the original. Yeah, that's actually one of the few improvements I'm okay with.
You know,
or alterations. I actually
Really?
think, yeah, that it is the Emperor in Empire. That actually,
I don't know.
That I'm totally
like
cool
the
with.
frog eyes.
But that doesn't add up with Jedi.
Hey, that's all I have to say to you.
But yeah,
It doesn't matter what happened.
Supreme Leader Snoke, total mystery. Don't really know what his deal is. Obviously, super powerful.
He's got some
And
forcey
I'm okay with that.
things going on.
I'm okay that there's more questions about him.
Yeah,
For sure.
Andy Serkis is great.
Yeah,
That guy
it's
kills it.
great. He had to do all of his scenes on a big 60-foot platform.
Awesome.
Which would be really weird to act with, I'm sure, for Domhnall Gleeson and Adam Driver.
He definitely is like channeling some Emperor vibe with him. He's like in a big black cloak. He's got a weird messed up face.
He's up to no good.
Yeah.
I mean, he's your classic sort of Star Wars-y kind of
I'm
villain.
just curious to see where he came from.
Right.
Yeah, and I think we'll get to know more. And we know, I mean, because there's dialogue. Han and Leia know who he is. I mean, they know that Snoke is the one who seduced their son to the dark side.
Yeah.
And this is also where we find out that he is
And I've got some
Han Solo.
crazy fan theories, but I'll not voice them here.
Okay.
We'll get the 4-hour version after this, everybody.
Yeah.
That's how this works.
So we get that. I said General Hux as well, Domhnall Gleeson's character.
Space Hitler.
Space Hitler. I mean, he does a good job, and
It's young Vader and young Tarkin. That's what.
Totally.
That's what this is.
My biggest complaint is
The red hair.
it's red hair.
that he looks like you.
Yeah.
I mean,
Red
forget the
hair.
red hair. He
People-
looks like you.
Children cross the street to get away from me now.
Yeah.
I didn't have that before.
Well, you don't have to wear the Imperial uniform all the time
No, but I
either.
do.
You don't have to say that today they will remember the day that we killed the Republic.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a bit about.
Not to mention that Davin just spends his time staring at the sun.
Let's
waiting
talk
for
a bit
it.
about
Here's-
Starkiller Base.
Well, here's my issue with General Hux or the Domhnall Gleeson performance in this is that speech that he gives is powerful.
Yeah.
But it's one note.
Yeah, I'm with.
He
Davin on
just
that one.
yells at the crowd. You
Hitler.
watch as
It's Hitler.
No. And this is going to be the weirdest thing that I defend on this podcast. Stop before you know that
the
I am
intensity
not,
of that no
I am not a
was
Nazi
insane.
sympathizer. But Hitler,
anything is going to be a great statement when you have to preface it with "I'm not a Nazi sympathizer."
But
Hitler
yes,
was a terrific public speaker, and a lot of that
loved dogs.
is played. A lot of that
Lovely
was
painter.
played in the levels. If you watch any of his rallies, even if you don't speak German, he is playing to the crowd. There's a tremendous one where he's like slowly. He waits for everybody to get quiet. He just stands there. And then he slowly starts talking about like all these atrocious things that Germany's gone through. And he starts building it up and building it and building it. And by the end, he can't talk over the crowd who's like cheering him on because it's like, yes, we're building it. Like, and that's what we didn't see from Hux. We saw no levels in it.
to be
It's just
fair,
like,
he was
I don't
also
know. I
talking
thought-
to a crowd of brainwashed soldiers.
Well, if you need the Reader's Digest version, then just watch Monty Python, the Mr. Hilter sketch.
Yes, the
And
Mr.
that's-
Hilter sketch is pretty great. And even John Cleese as Mr. Hilter has a few more levels than that. Again, like I said, it's powerful. The words of it are powerful.
Oh, yeah.
He's obviously
Well,
riled
you
up.
still
but
buy
you-
into his character. I
thought he was great. I thought
but
to me
wish
that
there
was
just
the
a little
highlight
bit
of it.
more depth to that moment.
I don't
That
know.
moment
I thought
specifically.
that
We're
was
gonna
the
watch Hitler
highlight of
videos
his.
after this.
That's fine.
I'll be leaving.
I thought that was the highlight of his performance. To me.
It was.
That was his.
And that's unfortunate.
That was his big thing.
Because Domhnall Gleeson's a great actor.
We'll get more of him in the next couple of movies, though. So
Yeah.
That's for sure.
I'm just saying.
I thought he was
that
great.
moment.
I thought he was great in this.
That moment is powerful with the imagery and the fact that he's yelling.
He brings
but
a real,
not specifically what he's doing level wise.
Calculating sociopath quality to General Hux that I enjoyed.
Yeah,
that really explodes in that scene.
if you
Literally,
anyway.
in the case of Starkiller Base, which can harness the energy of a sun to
Yeah.
blow up multiple planets, is a super Death Star.
yeah,
I'm okay with this. A lot of people have a problem with this. Does anybody have a problem with Starkiller Base?
I have no problem with it as long as they don't destroy another Death Star in any of the movies to follow.
I don't think they will. I just don't
Yeah.
see that happening.
No, I agree.
If in episode 9 we get they're building another Star Killer, I'll be a little disappointed.
I don't see them doing
so
that.
I'm
here's
fine with this one.
here. I mean,
Because it
on
gave
the
some great
surface,
lines
Yeah.
that about.
So it's bigger.
Yeah, exactly.
on the surface, of
Another
every-
amazing Han Solo
yeah,
moment.
exactly.
But it's got a shield, so we take down the shield.
Yeah.
on the surface,
There's got to be a way to blow
I
this
didn't
thing up,
care
right?
for it.
There's always
always
a
a
way.
way.
On the surface, I didn't care for
He's
it.
done this a couple times. You know?
Yeah, but the problem that a lot of people are having is like, oh, it's exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little different. What I
It
saw
is.
it as is like, if you're going to win a war, you have to have advanced technology, and this was just what the next advance was.
This is what I thought, which is the Empire wouldn't be like, well, those two didn't work. Okay, weapons of mass destruction are out for us. You know,
Yeah,
like they would be like,
exactly.
no. The Empire approach would be, we didn't go big enough.
We want to hurl plasma through hyperspace to
Yeah.
annihilate not a world, worlds.
That was that we can talk about that when they fire that weapon. I know we're kind of jumping around. We'll get to Maz Kanata, but that sequence is so interesting. I just got into an argument with somebody we know the other night about whether or not that's an impactful scene. He said that did nothing for him, the destruction of those planets. He said it was as empty as when they blew up Alderaan. I'm like, that was empty? Because that was pretty horrifying. And JJ takes it one step further here.
He shows people on the planet seeing it coming
Yes.
at them.
Yes.
My God, I mean that's played as pure horror. To see the strength of it, to see those plasma blasts or whatever cross, light years of. I mean, it's insane how. And then it starts as one thing and it separates.
No, it's always multiple things.
But they're grouped together in a way
They
that looks
start
like
clustering
one
together,
blast.
But because they're crossing such extreme distances, like any little variation in angle will eventually lead to like things light years apart.
Right.
Yeah.
So they start out as like clumped together and they're slowly getting farther apart. And you see them splitting right as they're hitting all of these different
right,
planets.
the
And it's
visual.
like,
I'm saying, boom, and just
and we can talk about the nitpickiness of just like they would never be able to see things that explode in that far away from a planet when they like. Or like
it's a movie.
Yeah, I realize,
And,
or,
yeah.
like 7 garden worlds all in the same system doesn't make any sense. But
whatever. Yeah.
But yeah, just the idea that they were able to take out the Republic in one foul swoop.
This is another thing that I'm sorry, which is number one. It looked like Coruscant, and I think that was on purpose. And two, this felt like a giant middle finger to the prequels, where it's almost like, oh yeah, they're gone. No, all that boring crap everybody hated in the prequels, we just took it out.
they didn't destroy the Republic. They annihilated the Senate that happened to be meeting on the. I'm not going to get into it.
No, of course they didn't
Senate.
destroy the entire Republic, but they took out the base of
They
it.
made
They
a
took out the
big
leadership of it.
statement.
Yeah.
It's the equivalent of blowing up the Death Star at the end of
Right.
Jedi.
No, it's
yes, that didn't take out the entire Empire. Took out the whole, central command of it, though.
Cut off the head of it.
Yeah, I mean the Republic is crippled now.
It's true.
Unquestionably.
And like, there's a line from 3PO later in the movie that's like, "Without the Republic fleet, we're doomed." And at first, I had taken that to like, well, because the Republic fleet is just somewhere else. But like
No.
watching the movie again, like when they blow up the Hosnian system, there's a ton of capital ships and stuff around that last world they blow up, and that are just like ash.
Once again, it's the thing about the ease of which they just because you think about like those are planets. They just wiped out billions upon billions of people.
Well, and what you're
with relative ease.
And what
I
you
mean,
They'd
yes,
have to suck out the energy of an.
we don't
entire
find
sun
that
to
out
do
till
it.
well, yeah, it's true, but even still,
So
that's still
not only
relative.
are they destroying 7 planets, they also destroyed a sun.
They are. I mean, these are heartless.
what you're
monsters,
also
yeah.
getting though is
Well, this idea that they're just going from sun to sun, sucking up, just eliminating
This
suns.
is like Captain Planet's worst fear come alive.
it is. Somewhere Captain Planet's crying.
well in
Why?
Star Wars, you at the end the rebels blow up the Empire, the base, right?
The Death Star.
The Death Star. But I'm saying like the base of their operations
Yes.
is right there. We're getting the flip side of this. Is now the First Order just took out the Hosnian system, right? I mean, so now you're like, wait, now we have to rebuild everything. Now this faction of the resistance is now becoming like we have to figure out how to make this work again.
When you talk about like their position, it is interesting. They sort of like flipped the good and evil roles here to a certain extent in terms of their standing at the beginning of the movie.
That's
where there's
kind of
like
what I was talking about in terms of like seeing where they stood. I want to see the First Order be a bit more put upon by an entity like the Republic or the Resistance, and like this is them coming back in a big bad way. Like if I'd seen a little bit of that, I don't need like minutes of dialogue saying like the sanctions that were put against the First Order.
No
like,
one does.
But I want to see why these guys are the Nazis to the like post World War I Germany. I want to see why these guys are rallying and being like, we will show them what it means or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I want to see why they have this zeal of like vengeance.
And
that
I think
they
there's,
they're
I mean, I
getting.
think there's aspects of that in the movie for sure.
Yeah.
So we get that. We also get, but sort of right before and during that, we go to once again another thing where Han says, "I'm going to go see an old friend." I'm like, "Is it Leia? Who is that?" I mean, it's got to be somebody. Nope, it's Maz Kanata. I've never seen this character before. I love this character pretty instantly.
great.
Yeah.
Played by Lupita Nyong'o, won the Academy Award for 12 Years a Slave. In a Star Wars movie, this woman is winning at life. She's incredible.
You
though.
should be so lucky.
Once again, what a strong actress too. That how much of her charisma comes through this mocap character that she's playing.
Yeah, no, I mean it's huge. You can see a lot of these mocap characters have come such a long way in just the last 5 years alone. You think about like the Apes movies, and you think about this, and it's just like it's such a
Ultron.
It's night and day compared to like Gollum's a good standout of those early characters that
It's
evolved.
interesting though. The Gollum looks dated now.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's
They've really,
insane.
I mean, even Andy Serkis will tell you that, like, they have perfected this technology in a very short period of time.
Right.
I mean, it's just seamless. Maz Kanata looks real.
Yeah, no, it's
I mean,
amazing.
there's no point that I question. Snoke looks a little more fake, but also because he's a hologram. Like, I think that's on purpose.
I am super fascinated. Like after watching this movie, like Avatar 2 is gonna blow my fucking mind away.
If you can get past the, I'm sure the screenplay of it.
Sure, yeah. But in terms of
Hey,
visuals,
I love Disney movies.
Yeah,
Love Fern Gully.
which one's he
Yeah,
going to rip off this time?
Yeah, exactly.
There's other
I
kids.
hope it's Snow White.
But yeah, so with Maz Kanata, we get another sort of cantina. We get
Ian, you were saying that people are upset that John Williams didn't write that Cantina music.
No. I don't think that people are upset.
he didn't write the original Cantina music.
John Williams didn't?
Sure he did. Who
No.
did then?
They specifically got somebody else to do it so that it didn't sound like the rest of the Star Wars score.
I don't know that.
For
I've never
real?
heard of it.
Yeah.
I feel like on all the like soundtracks, he's credited as.
The Cantina song is not on a lot of the soundtracks.
Oh,
Which one? Number 1 or number 2? And that's how you know you're a real Star Wars fan, if you can hum the second Cantina song.
or number 1 again later
No.
because
I
it's
don't
some
think-
rapper who did.
Well, it's the guy who wrote Hamilton.
Oh,
Him and J.J. Abrams got together.
that's right. That's right. I did hear about
So,
this.
so it's not. Yeah, it's not John Williams.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's
It's supposed to sound distinct, though.
Exactly.
That's the whole point.
And so I think that they did a good job. But what I was told is that John Williams said he didn't want to write the Cantina for this one, and so he didn't. And so J.J. Abrams contacted.
But J.J. Abrams just getting anybody on the phone. Can't
Yeah,
he?
I mean, you just have to say the name Star Wars.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who's going to say,
Yeah.
"Hey, you want to help out with Star Wars film?"
Never heard of it.
Yeah, you know what? No thanks. I love this moment when Han Solo walks in and Maz Kanata's like, Han Solo!
Everybody stops.
And Harrison Ford's reaction is like, oh boy. Just
Hi, Maz.
this guy, he's having the greatest time ever playing this character again. And, hey, yeah, it's just like,
Oh, and another. Sorry.
You know why, though? In retrospect, like looking at it again, the reason he can have such a good time with this because he knows this is his swan song.
Yeah.
Like he
And it
knows
fe-
he's going out.
This
And-
is kind of
and in-
perfect for him.
and what I was going to say, and in retrospect, that's why this character has such a big part in this movie. That's why this character is the way he is in this film. I mean, even from his performance to the writing, it is the perfect Han Solo swan song. And that's why it is like maybe the best Han Solo movie to a certain extent, because it's like J.J. Abrams gives you everything you love about this character in his final appearance in a
So
Star
he can
Wars
go out on
movie.
a high note.
Yeah.
Something we missed briefly. Han Solo offers Rey a job
Yes.
on the Falcon, and she turns it down because she's got to go back to Jakku and wait for whoever she's waiting for.
Yes.
Which makes the moment when she's talking to Maz Kanata after she touches the lightsaber she finds, and that incredible Force dream that she has.
I want to talk about this moment,
and
though.
when she's like, your journey is not behind you, it's ahead of you.
Great stuff. But I want to talk about this.
And that for me is like, the prequels happened, they're great, things happened in the past, but let's think about what's going to happen.
Yes.
Right? That moment is like, it's in the middle of the movie and it's saying, okay, from here on out, we're taking off.
Yes.
And that's amazing to me. Like, it feels very meta that they call that out in the film itself.
Yeah. Here's the other thing I want to say about what you were talking about when Han offers her the job. And there's another moment later where they're talking about, blowing up Starkiller Base. And I don't remember. Finn says something and Han's just like, I like this kid. This is the swan song for Han Solo. Han Solo has always been my way into the Star Wars universe. It's been long established on the show. I'm not much for the fantasy stuff. So to me, it's always been, that's my guy, the guy. And so losing him is rough for me. But this whole movie goes
John,
out of its...
I'm going to say something.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember a conversation that you and I had with another friend of ours where you specifically said...
Everybody remembers this conversation except me. I'm not saying I didn't say it because it sounds like me.
If Han Solo died in this next movie, you'd be out.
Yeah. I sincerely doubt I said I was out. I think I would say I would have been
like
enraged or upset.
I wasn't there. But,
out?
But
I would be
sounds
out
like
of this?
you. Yeah.
It's interesting because I was pretty... at a certain point, I became pretty sure this was going to happen. But anyway, what I'm saying is so many of these scenes are like Harrison Ford is telling me, like, these kids can handle it. You know what I mean? Like that scene where he's like, you should join the Falcon and stuff. And I like this kid. It's almost like, hey, he's talking directly to me. It's like, you're going to be all right with these kids.
The great touch that got pointed out to me was during that scene, the blaster that Han gives Rey, she's wearing it like on the waistband behind her. At the end of the movie, when she's going to meet Luke, she's wearing it on her hip like Han.
Nice. I didn't
know
notice that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I also love the moment with Finn and Han when he's like, yeah, we've got some problems, like I'm well known, and he's like,
I'm
you
a
got
big deal.
I'm a big deal. He's like, all right, big deal. You got bigger problems.
Calls him big deal for the rest of the
big
movie.
deal.
Too.
He's like, you got bigger problems. Women always find out.
That's
always.
That's one of the most fun things about this too. Is not only does he get to slip on the character again, you get to see Han Solo's elder statesman. I've been around, I mean, he even says that he even kind of was elder statesman in the original, just during his I've been from one side of this galaxy to the other.
I've seen a lot of strange.
He's
things.
saying that like 35. Now that he's 70, he's like. He's just like, women always find out. And
then Maz Kanata calls him out on it. Like, Maz Kanata, the next scene is like, you're not who you say you are. I mean, she doesn't say that.
I love that when she's adjusting
She crawls across the table. What's she doing? I don't know, but it's not good.
It's not good.
Does anybody else think that Maz reminds her... who's the creature in Titan AE with the big glasses?
Oh, yes.
That's who I immediately thought of.
What is that guy's name?
I know who you're talking about.
It's not Gru.
The breath you just took of actually like attempting to take in that name.
It is Gru, isn't it?
No, it's not Gru.
Is it Leech? No, it's...
I thought it started with an M, but maybe I'm crazy.
I have not seen Titan AE in a long time.
I watch
love
it
that
pretty
movie.
regularly, actually.
I like that movie.
I'm just trying. I
like that movie a lot.
Nathan Lane says his name a million times in that movie, and what is it?
Anyway, I'm going to keep talking.
Lies down.
I'm going to keep talking about Star Wars. If you guys come up with it, let me know.
This is as important as Star Wars is.
But Maz Kanata.
I do, Ian. I'm with you though.
But
if you've not seen
the reason
Titan
that I
AE,
like
we
this
also
scene
recommend
is
that.
because we start to see more of the flaws of Finn, where Finn goes and he kind of has that almost Han Solo moment where he's saying, "This isn't my battle. This is I'm here for myself. I'm trying to get out."
And the key to him is he doesn't want to fight the First Order. He's supposed to get away from them.
Well, and he doesn't want to fight. Period.
Yeah,
that's not.
I'm out. This is not. I got out of this to avoid killing people and stuff. I don't want to. I don't care about what the Resistance is doing.
Goon. That's right. Not Gru. Goon.
I don't care. Yeah, I don't care about any of this. I'm just And then I think that's where Maz Kanata is the thing where it's like, too bad you're already in this war, and that's
But her point is, everybody's in this fight.
Right.
It's just whether or not you choose to actually participate.
And then that leads to what is absolutely one of my favorite lines of the movie, which is the only war that's ever mattered: the light versus the dark.
Right.
And it's just
She's in the movie for 5 minutes, but it's the most important.
They boiled this thing down to.
I really hope she comes back.
I think she will.
I got such a Yoda vibe off of her.
Definitely.
I feel like she's going to be some
I don't
kind
know
of
if she's
sage.
going to come back.
And then we get, and then we do,
That
then we get
pretty
the,
well destroyed. And the stormtroopers.
There's
go through.
no visual language that indicates she's dead.
I know.
She's
Just like
different
there's
on that.
no.
She crawls out of the rubble with Han and the others.
Is she there? I didn't see her.
She hands Finn the lightsaber.
She does. I don't have a weapon.
Yeah, this is your weapon.
Because
Yeah, but then there's a big battle.
We gotta get
She's
to.
fine.
She's fine because we never see anything. If I don't see anything, they're alive, just
All
like
right.
Captain Phasma. There's nothing that. I understand Captain
Plus,
Phasma
she's got
doesn't
the
do
Force
anything.
to guide her out of the battle.
Anyway, I love that line too. I'm no Jedi, but I know the Force.
Yeah.
Right.
Great stuff there.
Like she's a Force sage, which I love.
Yes.
I love that idea of someone who like they're not using it to like express power or like manipulate the world. They're someone who just gains wisdom through the Force, who can channel the Force and feel it.
Whoa.
Now here's
Surround us,
here's the
bind
scene
us,
that we got to
penetrate us.
talk about this scene because you want to talk about questions. This is where you're going to get your questions.
So
She
many.
touches Luke's lightsaber, and specifically, well, it's Anakin's lightsaber that was given to Luke by Ben Kenobi in the first Star Wars movie. Episode 4, whatever, the first Star Wars movie, the one that matters. And then we see a bunch of images, and we hear some things too.
It's a Force vision. Like,
Yeah.
straight up, like prophetic.
But we
slash
also not
past
only do we see
vision.
some images, we hear some familiar voices.
We hear both Kenobis and Yoda.
Yeah.
We hear Ewan McGregor and Alec Guinness as
Which
Kenobi.
I love that the reading an interview with J.J. Abrams, they went in and pulled out the word where he said afraid in the original movie and just pulled out Rey.
Your
That's
first
so
step into a
cool.
larger world.
And then you got Ewan McGregor.
I can never get Ewan
Which-
McGregor's line.
The-
Like I can't catch what he's saying.
isn't that him?
At
What you
the
just
end,
said?
when he says these are,
This is your first steps.
these are the first
That's
steps.
Ewan
That's
McGregor.
Alec Guinness.
No.
No. The only thing is Alec Guinness
That's
is him
Hugh
saying
McGregor
Rey.
doing a little
That's
bit
it.
of an Alec Guinness.
which he does.
Ewan McGregor, I
wonderfully.
mean, right, that was one of the things that struck me when I saw Phantom Menace. Is like, God, he sounds just like him.
And I want that movie. I
I know.
want
We've talked about this.
I want Kenobi, the
But
space
hey,
western.
shh, I'm going to make that movie,
Okay.
right?
I mean, that's
Don't-
a terrible idea.
Don't do that
But yeah,
until
we get
I
a
get that.
bunch of stuff
until
from
I get that
Rey's
opportunity.
Force vision. We get a weird hallway that we're not quite sure what's going on
Mm-hmm.
there. We see a vision of the slaughter of the.
We see the Knights of Ren.
We see the Knights
Yes.
around. They're so anime, it's not even funny. They're like all distinctly armored. They all have different weapons. It's
Well,
so
what I find
it's so
interesting is
bleach. It's not even funny.
they all
But
have
it's also
swords.
Yeah, it's very
Which is interesting, though.
It's very Knights of the Round Table.
There are no swords in Star Wars.
Hell yeah, there are vibra blades.
Vibroblades?
Hey, that's
What movie was that in?
No movie, I know.
Gorgoni, I'm with you. I know exactly what a vibroblade is.
I'm saying that
Gamorrean guards and Jedi had vibro axes. They're basically the same thing, except
Yeah.
they work
Okay.
at a different. Like,
those are yes, okay, then that's closer. But I'm just saying, like that was very as a fan of the movie.
There's lots of
it
melee
was
weapons.
it was quite striking to see swords,
Yeah.
physical swords, as opposed to lightsabers. And I just assumed the Knights of Ren would all have sabers
What
like
I love
Kylo Ren.
about Kylo Ren's lightsaber, though, is that it's not perfect. It's
Yes.
like
Ooh,
weird
yeah.
and
Yeah.
crackly, and like it's not as
It's great.
like elegant.
Looks
as
like
a
somebody
Jedi weapon.
somebody built a lightsaber in their garage. You know, I mean,
Right.
like yeah, it's
Like this shit is flawed. So like he if he's the only Knight of Ren who can do that, and this is as close as he got, then the other
Yeah.
guys have to use. Like,
I mean, this
Yeah.
brings up a lot of questions, which is what happened to that Jedi Academy. Who the hell are the Knights of Ren?
How did
Is
Maz get that
Kylo-
lightsaber?
Is Kylo their leader? Love that line.
Kylo is
How-
the reader. He like Snoke calls him the master of the Knights of Ren.
I know, but it's like, did he start the Knights of Ren, or did these guys with Snoke, and he was just the most powerful? How did he?
Yeah, I don't know.
Were there Knights of Ren before these guys, or did they just were they like, hey, we're going to be the Knights of Ren?
That
Which
was
I
my
want to see that
biggest
scene where they're like,
question,
what
though.
should we call ourselves? No,
But yeah, I'm with Donovan. My biggest question was how'd she get the lightsaber? Because
Yes.
last time we saw that lightsaber, it was falling down a
falling-
garbage chute in
Well,
Cloud City.
Yeah.
somebody was walking around a gas giant, and because
Walking around a gas giant.
I'm just saying that. I mean,
Let's analyze that statement
wherever,
for a moment.
this is what I'm saying. I'm saying that to be like, it wouldn't be easy to just go down to the surface there and
Right.
pick it up.
Well, I have a feeling that a little Ugnaught, those little like pig guys that are almost Jawas from Empire,
Yeah.
found it in a trash chute somewhere.
Or-
I think it's a long history to get to Maz. is the
Or
thing.
next
We're gonna get a
movie,
book annulling that entire history.
next movie,
Mm-hmm.
we get Lando. He gets at Cloud City.
All right,
Give it to Maz.
that'd actually be
Buddy
pretty cool.
cop film. Maz and Lando.
I love both those characters. So.
Yeah.
But I do love the way that they're just like, that's a story for another time.
Yeah, she's like, no.
That's a purposely vague, and I love it. Because it's like, yeah. I mean, it's always a screenwriting thing. I was like, we don't owe you any answers. It's like the end of Lost when people were like, you didn't explain everything. It's like, we don't owe you a damn thing. But yeah, we get to that. We get this, yeah, and then we get the rejection, the classic sort of Campbellian, right, rejection of the call.
Right.
And she takes off. And
Joseph
then
Campbell, not John Campbell.
No, not me. Yeah, it's my
quite a
general
rebel.
rule of thumb that the
Right.
hero rejects their calling. I've been saying that for years now.
Though to be fair, as soon as Rey starts using the blaster, like she gets one false shot off. Well, first she can't. First she has to turn off the safety. Then
Which
she gets the false shot off.
have we ever seen a safety on a blaster before?
No,
No, but
like
we've
that.
also only ever seen people who know how to use blasters.
Stormtroopers and Han and
Yeah.
Rebel soldiers.
Yeah.
So like she false starts, then she gets the misfire, and then every time she shoots after that,
Yep.
she's shooting to kill.
Yep.
It's just like, wow, she took to violence really quick.
Everyone in Star Wars kind of does.
It's true.
Because even Finn, who's like, "Hey, I don't want to be part of this," he
But
takes
he-
out so many people.
But he was trained as a stormtrooper.
This is
runs
true,
a-
but I'm talking
a
about just
saber
the-
through somebody's chest.
which was badass. You rarely. I'm not gonna say never. You rarely see the lightsaber used as a stabbing weapon as opposed to a slashing weapon.
Which that was a lot of Rey's style of lightsaber fighting there at the end was more of like a kind of what they did with the lightsaber fight in this is they in a strange way took it back to how it was originally presented in A New Hope as this kind of like fencing sort of like
Yeah, she's
rapier
driving him
style.
back.
Right, exactly.
Yes, it's dueling. Yeah,
Yeah, she's using it like a rapier.
It's much
or
better
some
than the
kind
choreography in that.
Oh, way
but
better,
you also
yeah.
don't have an old man and a guy in a giant.
And you don't have lightsaber shafts that kept breaking when they would touch them together, and so they had to gingerly
Yes, exactly.
like
Right.
move
No,
about.
we were able to do that. Well, it also takes it back to what it's supposed to be, which is like samurai combat too.
Right.
The way you would fight with katanas.
Mm-hmm.
But you get so you get. I love this moment too, where it's like, I don't have a weapon. Yes, you do. And for the first time we see a proper lightsaber ignited in this movie, and it's late in the game.
Yeah.
And it's such an awesome moment.
Well, I mean, when you say proper lightsaber, we've had Kylo.
That's what I'm
Ren's
saying. It's a
lightsaber
proper
activated a couple of
lightsaber.
times.
Which
not as clumsy or random as a blaster.
That's true.
right.
More elegant weapon.
And then we also
Or
so we
more
get this
civilized
we get
time,
this cool
yeah.
battle. We get Han using the bowcaster, which is pretty awesome.
Which I love that.
Hey, can I borrow
It's a
that?
trope.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what it's called, but like he uses it a couple of times through the movie, and like whenever you see it shoot a stormtrooper, they go flying when they get hit by the bowcaster. So that like it's something that didn't hit me until probably the second or third time through. Like Kylo Ren gets shot by that,
Yes.
and just takes it, and then it's
He gets
just,
messed up, but yeah.
Oh, he's messed up and he's pissed.
Yeah.
But as opposed to everyone else who's just like explodes and flies backwards, he's just like, "Ugh, that hurt. Now you're all going to die."
yeah.
Well, oh, this is too nerdy. Never mind.
Donovan, we're hosting a
Wait, is
comic book
this
podcast. We're talking about Star Wars.
do we already have this conversation
We
about
briefly
charging?
did, and John was like, "When does it say that in any movie?" The exact quote, exact replica of the way John sounds.
I've already said that like 5 times
But-
on here. Show me the movie where that happens.
But bowcasters, I believe, can be charged to certain depths of. So, like, we don't see that in any of the.
It wasn't a complaint against this. I like that idea.
We don't see any of that in 4, 5,
Classic
and 6.
Kashyyyk technology.
Exactly. 4, 5, and 6, you don't get any of the power up. But maybe he set it to a higher power setting. Maybe he's in charge of
I
it.
love-
Sends
I
to
lo-
deep fry.
He's getting
Exactly.
older.
I love that.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that running thing though. He fires it earlier in the movie, and he looks at it, he's like,
Whoa.
"Wow, yeah." And then at the end, he's, "Can I see that?" He's just like, "I like this thing." Where he's almost like, "I should have been doing this for years. This thing's awesome."
Well, and it's after you see that his blaster, he's so proficient with. I mean, he doesn't even look at a guy and he shoots
Once
him as he's
again,
running by.
another instantly
Which is-
iconic Han Solo moment is the behind the back shooting of a stormtrooper.
Yeah. It's like whatever.
Where it's just like Han. One of my favorite things about Han is gunslinger.
Yeah.
Which is why the Greedo thing obsessed me so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a quick draw. He's an expert with the blaster. Like that's
Got the
awesome.
Fastest hands in the outer rim.
Right. Because
his words don't always
It's
get him out of
interesting.
situations.
I mean, Han is a cross between a pirate and a cowboy in space. I mean, that's one of the cool things about him. But you get this awesome battle, and then this is one of my favorite moments in the entire movie: is they're being captured, and we get the introduction of the X-wings.
Yeah.
The fog coming, and just the hearing of
That
the rumble.
dogfight was so cool.
But then just the once again the way the movie treats this stuff with a mythic level of like epicness is the cloud of the fog.
This
and
is
stuff.
the cavalry.
Yeah, and this is where you once again get that Poe Dameron theme I'm talking about. Which
If
is
Ride of the Valkyries had started playing, I would have been like, yes, of course.
but I mean, you get the it's heavy horns, and it's so like triumphant when they come in. This is also the reveal because the whole movie nobody really. I mean, I don't think any of us who'd seen any trailers thought Poe Dameron had died in the. But we come in and this moment where you see all the wings and he's Black Leader. and they're all like, "We're with you, Poe," and he starts sniping stormtroopers with an X-wing.
Yeah.
Well, I've never. That's another. That goes back to the stopping the thing. I've never seen anybody do that in any of the movies.
There's that
My
amazing
God.
shot where he like dodges a couple TIE fighters, he takes a couple out, he's swooping around. I mean, it's like 20 seconds of him just constantly.
What was so brilliant about that shot was we're always on the ground with Finn
Yep.
as he's marveling.
Yep.
at
We've also
what's
never.
happening
I've never
above him.
seen a battle in Star Wars treated like that in
Yep.
any of the movies.
And
Where
then
you're just
he's
like
like,
on the ground
you
level,
know-
like this is happening above us.
And then he says,
to be
like,
fair, we never
what-
relayed the technology,
Yeah,
and,
it's true.
and I think George didn't have the vision for it by the
Yeah.
time we got to the prequels.
Yeah.
But
he's like, that's one hell of a pilot.
that's
you
one
know?
hell of a pilot. Yeah,
So good because he doesn't know at that point that that's Poe because he thinks he's dead.
the most daring pilot in the Resistance.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, that's what we're told. He's their guy.
However,
and you can see why.
Unfortunately, Rey does not get away.
No,
Yeah, Rey's captured
we get
by
this.
Kylo Ren.
We get once again where we sort of turn into almost like a horror movie out here in the forest with
For
Kylo
being
Ren.
hunted by Kylo Ren.
And he
Very
captures her. I mean, she can't move.
Which he pulls that move twice because he did to Poe Dameron in the beginning. And we get this, and then the way he's just like closes his hand and she collapses. So it's almost like a magician, like sleep.
And the whole idea is that they don't need BB-8 with the plans because she's seen them, so he's going to get the information from her.
Yes.
That's a big plot point because later it doesn't work.
And a great piece of subtle acting from Harrison Ford when he sees Kylo Ren carrying her off and he goes to do something and he stops. And it's like, what?
'Cause he knows that's his son.
Yes, and then which then leads us to the Resistance shuttle landing, and we get the return of yet another beloved character.
C-3PO.
Exactly.
But
That was one of the best little quick moments of
Comedic
C-3PO.
moment.
we get this incredible, but of course we get Carrie Fisher
yeah.
as now General Leia. I love at the beginning Max von Sydow, General Leia. You can call her General; she'll always be royalty to me. Things like that. Nice touches, and then C-3PO of course calls her Princess Leia. But yes, this moment. We've been building to this for so long in this movie, and this door opens. You know who's going to come out of it, and it's her. And John Williams brings back the love theme from Empire.
So good.
Yeah, amazing piece of music. And then it is I, C-3PO. You probably don't recognize me because of my red arm. Which is just like, oh, this is great. 3PO's back. Ruining moments for everyone. But man, I do.
Princess, did you see? It's Han Solo.
Yeah, I saw. Such a great moment here, though. You changed your hair. That's the same jacket. It's new.
Yeah.
But is it? It looks a lot like his jacket from Empire.
It is new, but it looks really similar.
Yeah.
And the idea that they're like, I went back to the only thing I ever knew.
Yeah.
You know?
The only thing I was good at.
The only thing
Yeah.
I was good at. Me
And
too.
yeah, both of them went to
like-
that. But and also the emotion behind this, so much of like that moment of with the more impactful thing was like you're the son of Han Solo, but then I felt the impact here with the I saw our son.
I saw. He was here.
Yeah, and you're just like, wow, the subtlety that these actors are able to portray in that. You get so much from so little that they're giving you.
Talk about subtlety in the original cast. I mean, Luke's friggin' no lines at the end of this movie, just looks and it conveys everything.
And you're tearing up.
well, that's
you
the
know,
thing
like-
you realize too is like the people in the prequels were so bad, but the people in the originals were so good.
Yeah.
Those
And
three
they've
actors
only-
were so.
They've aged like a fine wine.
They really have, and because they all of them slip those characters back on, and you do just get like, it wasn't like it's not my nostalgia. They really were that good, and I mean, and I did go back and watch all these movies, and they really are that good. Those three, and they just get better with each movie. I felt like,
Oh, yeah.
the jump in their acting ability. And their comfort in those characters between the original and Empire, and then by the time we get to here, 35 years later, they are these characters again. It is incredible, and we see, and it's awesome to see General Leia. I mean, she really is General. She's commanding this resistance, and she's a different Leia for sure. I mean, she's hardened. She's been fighting a war for decades.
And the Republic's not necessarily helping her out as much as she'd like.
No,
according
exactly.
to
Which
the
is an
visual
interesting.
dictionary.
But I mean, you kind of get that sense in the movie. They feel very ragtag.
Right.
You also get Greg Grunberg, who's in every J.J. Abrams
Yeah.
movie, because he's his childhood friend, and he just keeps showing up in these things.
I mean,
and
I
there
like
he is.
seeing him.
Was that Miles from Lost?
No, it's
She's in that, too.
it's the guy. He was the cop on Heroes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Greg Grunberg. He was on Alias, of course, and Felicity. He's the pilot and the pilot of Lost.
That's right.
You know, he was the voice of Kirk's angry stepdad in
And
Star
this,
Trek.
He played the pilot Snap Wesley.
Yeah, is that right? Is that his name? I heard Snap.
Yeah.
Snap Wesley.
I kept waiting for him to die, and he didn't.
Yeah.
Like I really thought he was going to
No,
go down.
him and Nyenya walk away from the assault on.
Nien Nunb and Admiral Akbar in this movie,
It's true.
which made me very happy because I did not expect that.
That's one of the pieces that I really enjoyed about this movie is that there was a lot of Easter eggs for fans, but it wasn't like I'm going to turn and wink at the audience.
No
and let
one
it know.
says Admiral Akbar or
Exactly.
Nien Nunb.
There was
I mean,
lots
with
of
Nien
those
Nunb,
moments.
nobody would get anyway. I mean, like I feel like
No
that's
one says his name in Jedi.
I know. I
either,
feel like
so.
that's I don't even know how the hell I know that's
It's
his name.
me, John.
But even those moments,
I don't
of,
think
like,
it is. I knew that as a kid, and there's probably some picture book or
Toy.
something. Yeah,
I think there was even
Yeah,
those lines
action
of like
figure.
Han Solo saying like, "I got a bad feeling about this," but it
Yep.
wasn't like "I've got a bad feeling about this." Turns to the camera,
Never
thumbs
winks.
up. Yeah,
Finn puts his arm down, and the holographic chest starts up,
And
he's
it's
just
like,
"What the hell?"
there was
Yeah.
all those little moments that pulled in old fans, but never took you out of
Yeah.
the movie at all.
And so this is where we get the establishment of exactly what Starkiller Base is, that they're charging to now blow up where they are, and which will conceivably finish things off for good, pretty much. I mean, I think that if they had taken them out, that would have been First Order. Pretty much would have walked across the galaxy.
But we also get possibly my favorite scene in the whole movie, and that's the interrogation between Kylo
Yeah.
Ren and Rey.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we get him like finally taking the helmet off, and you're thinking like, oh, he's gonna be some messed up monster like Vader, and he's just a guy underneath.
What when he was going to take off the helmet? Did you think he was going to be a messed up monster? I thought
honestly wasn't sure.
I thought and hoped for what they did, which is he's just some guy.
Because
he's not some guy. He's a great actor named Adam Driver.
Of him in the costume without the helmet.
But none of those were official photos from the movie. They were you're specifically talking about the Vanity Fair where
Right.
Annie Leibovitz went and shot all the. But you don't know if that's just them taking pictures of him because we want to see Adam Driver.
It's true.
The first time I watched it, I was like, I don't like that he also wears a mask. Vader did it, but he needed it. There was like a purpose. The second time through, though, it was like, no, he did it because he's trying to emulate him so desperately.
Yeah.
And he's still a little boy, but he's trying to show everybody he's a man the whole time.
Well, because that's the other thing. You're struck by it. He's a young guy. I mean,
Exactly.
Adam Driver's a young actor.
And
He's
that's
not,
the whole thing is like he's trying to be bigger than he is.
And he takes off his helmet and he looks like Harrison Ford, does he not? I mean, not exactly, but
The
enough.
nose.
The nose,
Just
for sure.
the nose.
But it's enough that you're like, yeah, I see it.
You buy it.
Yeah, for sure. And I've been a big fan of Adam Driver's for a while. He's on the HBO show Girls. He's given some great performances in Inside Llewyn Davis with him and Oscar Isaac. You can go watch a movie with
And
Poe Dameron.
I've heard
and
complaints about
Kylo
like
Ren.
when the helmet comes off and like you're just dealing with Kylo Ren. Like some people have been struck by like his kind of whininess. There's a really funny joke Twitter account that's like emo Kylo Ren.
Yes, it's actually hilarious. I've seen it.
But like I was really struck by Donovan, the idea of like he's trying to be bigger than he is. He's trying to fill somebody's shoes. The idea that he kind of is. I said this earlier. He is what Anakin should have been. He is kind of like a whiny kid who's trying to be this like big intimidating.
That's the
badass.
thing. That's the thing I get from him, and I think is so great. Is he's a little boy in his performance? So much of it is he's this petulant like I need to. He almost doesn't even know what to lash out at. He's just upset, and you see that when he's tearing apart stuff with his
Those are
lightsaber,
my
and he's just
favorite
like,
moments.
yeah.
And
It's like,
that's why I love when
he grabs that guy and pulls him to him.
What girl?
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
I love when
Doesn't force choke him. Pulls him into his hand. And you see his feet on the top of it, like on his toes slide across the floor.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
when he takes off his helmet, it's great. And
Mm-hmm.
then when Rey's able to get into his mind and she's like, "You're afraid they're never going to be Lord Vader," that's when he loses it again, right? Like he's kind of let his guard down for a second, and that's when
This is another. Yeah, this is
man,
another.
that moment when she resists his.
I
Like,
think they're
interrogation.
both incredible in this, but that moment and Adam Driver's performance, once he plays it all in his face, that moment where he loses you watch him lose the power in his
never
face.
had that.
There's
He-
such a
he-
subtle thing here in both the performance of the actors, but also the sound design.
Mm-hmm.
Like the subtle use of that like whom sound for the Force, that's slowly shifting tone as Rey's gaining control.
Yep.
It was so like never did any of the actors say like, "Oh, she's gaining control." It's like
No.
it's just all in their like actions and like subtle movements toward each other, and the sound design. It's just so perfect.
But I love that moment because especially this is just screenwriting 101, but paired with what we saw him do with Poe Dameron earlier, and you see him extracted from him, and he's so just like, you will tell me what I want to know, and then here to see him like he's he starts out in that like, no, you will tell me what I want, and then it's just like, wait, no, what? Oh God. Like, and then it's just, I gotta get out of here now because this girl's
Lord Snoke, she was strong in the Force.
There is that great moment where he and Hux go to Snoke, and it is like, yeah, Daddy.
Well, and then the issue becomes.
I love that Hux kind of thinks Kylo's an idiot,
right?
Like he's just like, I'm saddled with this dum.
Well, and
this emotional child.
Yeah,
like
which I like. Yeah, that Hux is the mature. He's the older brother, and that's the. I mean, it is like it's the two brothers and the father.
They don't get the BB-8 unit, and that's where this becomes important because now he can't get inside Rey's mind.
Well, and it's Red's fault because he's like, we don't need it.
Yep, he's like, we got it.
It's his own hubris that causes them to.
That's
to lose
an important moment
because
he's losing street cred at that point.
Yeah, and then so we get her
escaping from.
Then we get
Craig.
her. Yes, from Daniel Craig. Who's the stormtrooper who comes in and we get...
I will release restraints and leave with the door open.
Yeah, and you'll drop your weapon. And I'll drop my weapon. It's pretty great, fun. It's sort of with the...
Right after that was like a great scene where Kylo Ren freaks out. He finds out she's escaped, and you just see the outside of the door with him just like
this is one of my favorite
room in rage. The two stormtroopers are walking down the hall towards him. Stop, see what's happening, turn around and walk the other direction.
The key to the joke is one of them stops the other one. Like, nope,
no,
don't go in there, Dave.
Walk away.
Well, it's that individual thing about like one guy's like, we're not gonna. Hey, pal, don't. Let's get at it. These are working stiffs, you know. They're just like, we're gonna go. It's a living, you know. No, we're not getting out of that room is the thing. So let's hightail. I do like that he doesn't kill any of the.
No, he always lashes out at what's around him.
Yeah.
Right.
The screens.
In some ways, he's smarter than Vader in that sense because, like, maybe don't just start killing everybody. There's a cool thing about that. And then, then we get as we're talking about the trench run. It's interesting you brought up that like the first movie it has a trench run, but. It feels more like the end of Jedi to me. The way that Poe goes into the
and they have to
it feels
power
like both
down.
of them have been put together.
It's the trench into the flying into the core kind of thing.
Well,
which
in the first one, there's not a team on the inside.
Right.
In Empire or in Return of the Jedi, there is. They have to power down.
Well, on
Endor.
What's interesting is it's more like Jedi 2, yeah, where you're switching back and forth between a ground assault and aerial assault.
Yep.
You know, I mean, it's got the bigger scope of like the Jedi battle.
Yeah,
because we have Finn and Han and Chewie going in to shut down. Well, and Rey's already there, but I'm saying we have them go in the Falcon to shut down. Once again, he does something awesome with light speed, where he's going to land at light speed. Basically, cuts through the trees because he's got to fly low. They do this awesome skid to a cliff.
What I love here is they're ostensibly there to shut down the shield so that like the X-wings can come in and like attack this little MacGuffin that will destroy Starkiller Base.
Because as Han points out, there's always a thing.
Right. But ostensibly they're there to shut down the shield. But when they get there, Han's like, okay, how do we shut down the shield? And Finn's like, I don't know.
I'm in sanitation.
I'm here to rescue Rey.
I love that. What division were you? Sanitation.
He was a space janitor.
Yeah. One of my other favorite Han lines is Chewie's moment, and then he's like, "Oh, you're cold." We get into the base, and the way that they do it is they end up grabbing Captain Phasma. Another great moment here for John Boyega is the "Who's in charge now, Phasma? Who's in charge now?" And Harrison Ford just bring it down, kid.
Bring it down.
That's enough. That's the elder statesman kind of thing, where it's just like, okay, pal.
But yeah, they shut down the shield. They end up. Rey has already freed herself, so they end up stumbling into each other.
Another amazing moment between them is him trying to indicate, he's like, "What are you doing? What are you talking? What's this? What do you?" You know, just like, "Oh, okay, she didn't need that. She's already on her way out."
Right.
I love the relationship between Rey and Finn. They have incredible chemistry with one another. I mean, I think they
didn't go straight up romantic in this movie,
but I feel like it's gonna end up being the romance of the friend. I mean, I get the romance from him to her. Not
he's crushing on her in a big bad way. She's too kind of wrapped up in what's happening.
She definitely has affection for him, but whether or not it's in a romantic thing yet. I do like when they're talking about, he's talking about, oh, you're live on Jakku. Wait, you have a boyfriend, cute boyfriend back on the planet? This guy, he's kind of got some of the smoothness of Lando to him, though, to a little bit. I mean, not there yet, but you know.
No one's as smooth as Lando.
No one's as smooth as Lando, but I'm saying like he's got a swagger to him that's different than a Han Solo.
Well, and I think that he is like this new sense of humor that we're going to see throughout the Star Wars films.
Because
Han Solo very much feels like, oh yeah, this is just old Han Solo we love. But then all of Finn's lines, all of his humor is definitely like a new generation of Star Wars humor.
He feels the most modern of any of the characters, for sure. He feels like, oh, here's the millennial character.
Droid, I don't speak that.
He says droid please at one point, which was great. Droid please. Like, come on, man, you got to help me out.
Hook a brother up.
Yeah, there's sort of a nervous, neurotic energy to him that I've never seen from a Star Wars character. He is a wholly unique character in so many ways. Yeah. Whereas Poe and Rey feel a bit more cribbed from some of the stuff from the past. But so we get this moment, and then let's see, they have to go back at one point here because
they're trying to escape. They see that the X-Wings are like trying to destroy this oscillator to like disrupt the Starkiller base and destroy it. The X-Wings aren't really doing anything really, and then all the TIE fighters come out and they're like, "Ah, shit, we're doomed." And so Han's like, they're clearly having trouble. My friend here's got a bag full of bombs. Let's blow this.
Because earlier we established where Finn was driving, so I was like, "Careful, those are explosives."
Right. Yep.
Yeah. And so they go in to do that. They go
into the oscillator to blow it up from the inside.
And they start sticking bombs everywhere. And then this is where we get what's really probably the emotional climax of the movie. The emotional climax.
Because Kylo Ren shows up hunting Han Solo.
One of the best and most understated moments of the entire film, because they reveal like a fourth of the way through that the relationship, the father-son thing going on, when he calls him Ben. He doesn't call him Kylo Ren, and it's a subtle reference back to what we knew before. I mean, I'm assuming old Ben Kenobi. I can't imagine they just picked that name out of a baby book somewhere.
Most popular name in the galaxy.
That moment was just like,
I talked
this
to
was so good.
Who some people we saw this with or whatever. And it was just like, and they agree. That broke my heart that his name was Ben.
Yep.
I don't, in a way that I didn't. I was just like, oh my god.
The first screening I was in, there was just a moment of silence.
Yeah.
He said Ben, where everyone in the theater was just like, oh.
When you see him walk out, that just you can't do anything but just there's soak that in.
The moment Harrison Ford plays where he debates whether or not to even do it, and we didn't talk about that moment where he talked to Leia earlier, and she's like, "There's still lightness in him. If you see our son, bring him home."
He's like, I'm not a Jedi.
Yeah, I'm not a Jedi.
Yeah.
I'm not Luke. If Luke couldn't reach him, how could I? It's like, Luke's a Jedi. You're his father.
And that moment where he says Ben, he says it like his father.
Yeah.
It's Ben. I mean, just
I'm tear up right now just thinking about it.
Yeah, it really is. This. I mean,
but at the same time, that was that moment in the movie where I just felt that inevitable creep.
Yep.
Just like,
I knew it.
No,
I knew it.
Well, because
no.
There's a great part of Star Wars that's a tragedy. Much of it is a tragic story, and this in particular feels like a grand tragedy. This sequence right here, there's an inevitability to it. There's a deep emotion to it, and and they're both fantastic in this, both him and Adam Driver. And he makes him take his helmet off.
He's like, "What do you think you're going to see? The face of my son."
Oh, Harrison Ford, incredible in this.
There's an implication there that we don't know, because here's a big interesting time gap in this movie, not only between Jedi and Empire, or Jedi and The Force Awakens, but between The Force Awakens and whenever it is that Luke's failed Jedi Academy fell. There's a weird middle event that happened.
Yeah.
We're not quite aware when it happened. How long ago did Kylo Ren turn? We're still not sure.
I see it as 5 to 10 years.
And so it's kind of implied that Han hasn't seen the face of his son in that long.
Oh, I think that's definitely the case.
Yeah. And so when he's like, "What do you think you're going to see?" And he's like, "I'm always going to see the face of my son."
Right.
That doesn't matter.
Which is, I mean,
he doesn't say that line, but that's what
this
the
is the kind of
it.
emotional complexity that I just don't think Lucas is capable of.
Yeah, I don't know.
And that I get from Abrams and Kasdan. This moment is amazing, and
then the heartbreaking moment where he's like, I have to do something, and I don't know if I can do it.
And people have I've debated this with a few people where they're like, "Well, is he just messing with him, or is he really struggling?" I'm like, he's really struggling because if he's not, then this movie's pointless.
Yep.
No, but everything he's saying isn't. I have something very difficult to do. Can you help me do? He's asking Han if he can kill him.
Yeah.
And
but he's legitimately debating that. Is what I'm saying.
And Han,
he's not just he's not a supervillain who's just like, I wonder if I can.
No. He's but what Han's taking it as is just come back to the light. What Kylo Ren is saying is I need help escaping the light.
Yeah.
And Han answers back as the father and says It doesn't matter. Like,
and in Kylo Ren's twisted mind, it's just like, thank you for letting me do this.
In this moment where the light goes out.
Oh, so beautiful. It's just the red emergency light.
Amazing cinematography here. I wish I knew the name of the director of photography on this, but the movie looks gorgeous. Shot on 35mm film, unlike the prequels, which were shot digitally. And this moment is... And so he stabs him, and then what does Han do with his last moment? He touches his face.
Ugh. Heartbreaking.
Incredible, and then falls in a very Star Wars kind of imagery.
Nothing ends well in Star Wars on a catwalk over a bomb.
Yeah, I thought that. I was
true.
like, never going a catwalk.
This is true. And it's,
their lighting designers on set were dying left and right. They
and obviously, obviously, it does feel a bit like the original movie with Finn and Rey watching, and it feels like the death of Obi-Wan to a certain extent.
And then Chewbacca loses it.
Chewbacca loses it, and one of my favorite moments in the movie, just up and shoots that bastard. Like I was listening to Kevin Smith's reaction to this movie. He's like, I don't know what's going to happen in these things, but I hope Chewie gets to kill that son of a bitch. Because we see him stop that, but Chewie gets one in on him, and he goes down. Like, and Chewie doesn't even he screams, and it's almost that same kind of moment that I love from Empire, where Han sees Vader and just opens up on him, and Chewie's like, I got my shot, I'm going to kill this guy. And he gets it more than anybody's ever gotten, this guy.
I do love that scene in Empire.
Well, besides Rey there at the end.
Well, yes. I mean, up to this point.
Right.
When they turn that corner and Han just starts firing.
That's what it's that cowboy. He just quick draws and opens up on him. I mean, he doesn't. He's like, Vader, I'm going to kill him.
Yep.
Like, I'm not no ifs and or buts about this.
There's no moral qualms there. It's just like dead.
And same thing with this.
And quickly after that, like, the core is exposed. The X-wings can go in and try to destroy this thing.
And this is where you get your classic Star Wars.
Wait, but can we talk about the emotional piece that Leia adds to that moment?
Yes.
Where
'cause she definitely has that, like,
exactly where she
disturbance
feels
in the
it
Force.
and falls over because of it. I mean,
Yeah.
that for me, Harrison Ford sold the scene, and then you hear Chewbacca and his classic scream, like when Harrison Ford ends up in kryptonite. I mean,
carbonite.
You also hear that in
So Superman can't get it out.
one of my but also another one of my favorite Chewbacca moments is at the beginning of Empire when they close the blast doors on the base on Hoth.
Yes.
And he gives that same kind of roar.
exactly.
It's like, no, you can't.
But then Leia feeling it, even though she's not there.
And
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying is like we know she's force sensitive from 5 and 6.
Yeah.
They talk about it almost
Of course.
like all the time.
I mean, Luke reaches out to her with his mind.
What
at
does
the end
she
of Empire.
do with it? Because it doesn't matter. Honestly,
I
it
always
doesn't matter if
interpret
she
it as-
becomes a Jedi. Like Jedi to me are like a specific,
She's a crazy, powerful empath, is what she is.
Yeah.
like Maz Kanata.
Wha-
Maz Kanata's like a force counselor.
But I think it's different. Maz Kanata is more of like a sage. She like divines wisdom through the Force. What Leia can do is like feel people's emotions, even from like systems away. In the case of people she's really close to, whether that be Luke or Han, like she can sense. This is how I've always interpreted it: is like Leia can sense the emotions of people. She can like use that information however she will, but like especially that last scene between her and Rey at the end, like Leia knows that Rey has been through some shit. She's never met Rey before. They don't know each other's names necessarily, but like because of Leia's connection to the Force, she can like intuit these things.
Yeah.
But I want to see more of that.
And I
I
think
want
we
to
might.
see.
Yeah.
I wish we saw more of it in this movie.
I don't think there's much of, and this is it, man. I mean, this is
4 hours long. I wouldn't mind.
This is I mean, that's exactly it. But I mean, that moment is hugely impactful for sure, and Carrie Fisher really sells it. But then the thing about, and I've heard some people go like, well, they don't spend the time on. We just lost, the most beloved Star Wars character, or whatever. It's like there's no time. We got to go. And
They're in the middle of a battle.
I think Adam Driver he's great in that scene. I think he may be at his best here when he shows up and he's pounding on his chest.
We're not done yet.
I know, and he's
keeping himself
blood is
angry
pouring out of
by it.
him, and he's punching himself in the stomach, and so he's just like, oh, he's in full on like psycho mode here. And I love that Finn just goes at him.
Yeah,
Like
and
it-
then gets wasted.
He holds his own for a little while.
No,
it's
think
pretty
absolutely,
bad.
it's
Toilet
so
person.
one-sided.
I don't know. I don't think you're giving Finn enough credit here. I think he holds off more than you would. He holds him more than you would expect him to.
I think that was allowed.
You think that was
There's a couple
allowed?
of times where he bats him aside. He like Kylo Ren takes a couple of steps away to like take a moment to just like
Kylo Ren is injured. I'm not
No,
saying.
he's enjoying it. It's a cat and mouse game.
I don't think that's the case. I think he's a weakened.
I think he's enjoying it.
That's not how I read it.
Because he's just like getting drunk off of his power at that point, right? Like that's the thing, and that's why when Rey is able to get that lightsaber, he's like doesn't understand what's going on.
This is one of the great moments in the movie.
Good.
Is the lightsaber in the snow?
Well, after I love when he uses the cross lights, everything that does like sear the shoulder. We've never seen that before.
It was the perfect use of it because like how many times do the Jedi in the how many times in the movies do we see the Jedi like get really close to each other and the lightsabers and they're staring right at each other? Well, and his lightsaber he can just turn slightly and then there's his
it's almost like everyone who mocked the cross guard on it is just like he just legitimized it.
Right.
I didn't think about that, and when I saw it, I'm like, that's cool. That's why that's there. That's
it's an extra weapon on the side.
It is. It totally is. It's not because we were like, how would that protect your hand? I'm like, I don't know, maybe it does. And they're like, oh no, it doesn't matter. It's just if you can get in there, you can spin that. And somebody saw other Star Wars movies, But yeah, that was really cool. But this moment is like this is a stand up and cheer moment when Rey gets the lightsaber here.
Yeah.
And lights it up, and then you get this awesome fight between her.
Finn's not the Jedi. Rey's the Jedi.
Well, and the publicity images were led to make us think.
That was the thing going into this movie,
But watching the movie,
right.
I figured that this some variation of this was going to happen. Because then the whole movie, I'm like, well, wait a minute, Finn's going to get a lightsaber? Because everything about Rey is putting her on this path to be.
Yeah.
And then you get this incredible moment. Really, like where it's just like, wow, this is a heroic. This is her big moment where she becomes really the hero of this franchise.
There's the brief clash where it's like clearly Kylo Ren kind of outclasses her a little bit. She's holding her own way better than Finn did. But even still, he's got the upper hand. But then there's that moment where he's like, you could be so much stronger in the Force. You need a teacher. You need to just like open yourself up to it. And then she's like, oh, open myself up to the Force. Everything kind of slows down. She closes her eyes. Like, she doesn't, there's no words. There's just like, she's like opening herself up.
And we're cutting back to Kylo Ren, who's almost like, what is going on?
Right.
Like, what, because they're locked in that lightsaber kind of thing.
Over a precipice.
And then this is the moment where she accepts becoming the hero.
Yeah.
Like, this is that turn in the hero's journey. It's like she accepts the mantle. And then everything clicks, and she just goes at him, and it's so satisfying.
Well, and there's something like people were saying, like, "Well, she's not trained how to use a lightsaber. Like, how's all this going about?" But she watches what Kylo Ren does, and then she does it all back to him. It's almost like she
also was wielding that staff pretty well.
Trained.
It's true.
Yeah.
I really want to see her with a double-sided lightsaber in future.
Oh,
movies.
it'd be super cool.
Right?
We got to redeem that, John. That was the coolest idea, and it was done poorly.
Why do you go
I don't need it.
So
we don't need the double-bladed lightsaber.
So
well,
cool
you got a lightsaber with cross guards. Why can't you have a double lightsaber?
You can have one. I'm just saying.
I want a lightsaber
I don't
whip.
need it. Just give me.
I want a lightsaber knife boot.
All right. See, now you're getting
or
crazy.
boot knife, whatever.
Why can't we have her with a double-sided lightsaber?
You could. I don't need that.
I don't think we will see it. It'd be awesome.
Be so cool.
But I don't think we're gonna get it.
We already established that like she's good. She has that staff even at the end of the movie.
Yeah,
like, she's established as a bow staff fighter.
Okay.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. It'd be so cool. Or nunchucks.
Lightsaber nunchucks. You're already in danger of cutting your own limbs off with a regular lightsaber.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's going to guarantee it at that point.
Easy. Yeah.
So yeah, you get this fight, and she messes Kylo Ren up.
She destroys his lightsaber.
No, what she does, it's so cool. She drives it into the ground so that he can't get it out.
That first slash when she slashes down, she doesn't cut off his hand.
No.
But
I thought she did because I'm like, they're going there again.
I thought there was a few limbs that were cut off.
Yeah, I thought his foot got cut off.
Like she slices at his leg. I can't tell if she destroys his lightsaber or.
And you've seen it 4 times.
I can't tell. I know his hand's not cut off.
Gonna have to get a Blu-ray at some point here and watch it frame by frame.
But yeah, she slices at his leg. She slices at his hand, does something to his lightsaber, and then really messes up his face.
Oh,
yeah,
that was intense.
Cuts across the face.
Well, because he cuts up Finn's back. That's a moment where he falls in the snow, and I'm like, is that the end of Finn?
Well, because you've seen enough samurai movies, that's usually the finishing move in like a Kurosawa movie is the slice up the back.
Yep. It's not one you come back from usually.
Yeah. I knew he was alive mainly just because Kathleen Kennedy was like, well, John Boyega in episode 8. I'm like, okay, well, you didn't have to say that.
But it could be Ghost.
There was no explicit moment where like Kylo Ren ran him through, so I assumed he was alive.
Yeah, deaths in Star Wars tend to be a little bit more openly dramatic than like just that.
Especially if you have a name.
But it was so good. That moment when he cuts him in the back, I'm like, oh no.
Oh yeah, it definitely is a like, oh god. It's way more messed up than you want to see this character who's been so lovable the whole movie.
Yeah.
And he's still like in a coma by the end of this movie. So
that was the interesting thing is that he didn't come back at the. Usually we get the.
It feels very.
Right, we put him in
it feels very. The end of this movie feels like Empire to a certain extent, where everything's up in the air, characters are injured. Did we win? I guess it's this weird
with Luke
mix
Skywalker at the end of Empire. We got
he's going to be all right.
He's going to be functional.
But even as opposed to the end of...
he's almost
like
in more of a Han
Hope.
kind of place at the end of Empire.
Vader survived the end of A New Hope, but we saw the destruction of the Death Star and like Tarkin and a bunch of other bad guys. At the end of this movie, all the bad guys are alive, presumably.
Yes.
Like their big gun gets destroyed, but all the bad guys are still kicking.
Yes. Yeah. We do it. There's a darker sense at the end of this movie because we get this moment where the planet starts to tear apart, separating them.
No, they make their escape.
Yeah, and
again, that scene where Chewie shows up with the Falcon.
Yep.
Han Solo is so like.
Yeah,
and then grabs Finn,
and then we get what am I? Oh, we get Snoke telling Hux to grab Kylo Ren, conceivably saying that they are, alive and they're going to take off, and conceivably they make their escape as well, and presumably Captain Phasma somewhere in there.
I hope so.
Is once again,
I hope so too.
There's
With all the build-up that we had for that character.
There's no visual language to state that she's dead, and then we get. We didn't talk about that. R2-D2's been in a state of low power mode since Luke disappeared.
This is the biggest question: is R2-D2 somehow
force sensitive? Yeah, I've heard this theory.
I mean, he just repowers all of a sudden. What made him do that?
And so, because BB-8 only had part of the map, and so we put the map together.
Do you know what it is? Do you have the answer?
Well, there's the idea. I don't. How deep do we?
Is there a brief answer?
Can you give us a?
So there's a mention in the movie of like the Imperial archives that they, like that's where they got the original because the First Order has the most of the map. BB-8 has a small chunk that'll lead us to Luke.
Yeah.
R2 at the end of this movie also has most of the map. So the idea that got kicked around in the visual companion, and I think Kazan has talked about this a little bit, is that R2 was plugged into the old Imperial archives, and he was just digging through like reams and reams of information trying to find this map. So it's only in low power mode when they like get the like notification that like, okay, we've got the piece of the map, now we need to go find Luke, sort of a thing, that he powers back up.
That makes sense.
But it's just like, it's not something that's stated in the movie because it would be pretty boring and slow things down.
Well, and it's like he powered up at the right moment, and I just went with it, and so we put the pieces together, and then we get this moment of Rey and Chewie and BB-8. Is that it? Who go? Is R2?
No, it's
BB-8
R2.
doesn't go. R2.
R2. It's R2, not BB-8.
BB-8 is Poe's.
It's Poe Dameron's.
Yeah.
So he's with Poe.
That's a good.
Which when they get back together, that was nice.
Yeah.
Poe Dameron calls a lot of people buddy.
Yeah.
Yep. Hey, buddy.
He's a real friendly guy.
He calls BB-8 buddy. He calls Finn buddy.
When I love that he lets him keep the jacket.
Yeah.
It looks good on you. Looked pretty good on Poe Dameron too. It's a cool jacket.
Yeah.
And we get this moment of we see Finn in a coma, but Rey says, "I believe I will see you again." I'm sure she will. There's going to be more of these movies.
In the sequel.
Yeah, I'll see you in the sequel.
Hey, you're signed for the next movie, right?
And then,
okay, we'll see you again.
And then we get this moment where Leia tells, "May the Force be with you."
Have a great summer. That's what she said.
She says, "Have a great summer."
Tags.
And then
Say hello to Uncle Luke for me.
Yeah.
yeah. And then we go to a location unlike we've ever seen in Star Wars. I don't.
On calamari.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be so awesome.
It's on an uninhabited island in Ireland where only birds exist. Apparently, there's only birds that live there, which is why Ireland was like, "Well, don't go and disturb the birds," and so that's why it was tough to get there. But my God, when this happened, this was so striking to me. Like I've never seen anything like this.
What was great about it is they could have harped on this a little bit more. They didn't, and that's why I thought it's so affecting for me. Is that earlier when Kylo Ren is interrogating Rey, he's like talking to her about how she's so alone, and at night when you're attempting to sleep and all you dream of is an ocean with a single island, and like that's the only thing keeping you sane and stuff. And it's like then you see the look on her face as she sees flying over the ocean. She sees the island, and you just see her face go, "This is from my dreams."
Yes,
like it's never stated. It's not really harped on all that much, and they could have done it like way more obtusely. Don't, and it's amazing.
But man, does he let you like sit in what's happening here? Because she climbs this stuff for a while, and you know where she's going, and you know what she's going to find. And boy, is this build up incredible here before we finally get to the lone figure of the guy in the hood standing, looking out the ocean. No dialogue here, which is an incredibly awesome choice. And the turn, and then the look, and then the pull back of the hood, and the robot hand on the.
Yeah, he's just got Robo Hand now.
And man, does Mark Hamill look epic and awesome here in full
Jedi
like
Master
Jedi.
Luke.
Yep, it is. This is everything we've ever wanted to see from Star Wars. And here, and the music swells, and we get Luke's theme.
Yeah.
At this moment too, and she holds out that lightsaber to him, and I don't know what the look on his face is either.
It's like it's a mixture of like pain and regret, but almost hope or
there's
something.
There's a lot of hope.
Yeah,
there.
there's a lot of stuff.
Well,
going
another
on
thing
in that
too
book.
is like you got to imagine that Luke has sensed some of this stuff going on, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like he had to in some way expect that she was going to come. As to how much we don't know,
right.
As we are left here, as we do a pinwheel wipe to credits like we always do.
Yeah.
And oh boy, do I need episode 8 like right now.
Right now.
Yeah.
So wait a year and a half.
But here's my one criticism for this movie.
Lay it on
this
us.
is it. This is it. That last scene was so long, and it didn't need to be. Like I enjoyed the looks back and forth. I enjoyed the handing out the lightsaber, but I didn't need the helicopter spin off this where we're seeing the same thing. That was the only part.
The very, very last shot.
Exactly, the last shot. That's the only part that took me out of the movie, and I went,
I disagree. I
thought it was just long enough to let me drink it in, and then cut to credits. Like as opposed to like think about the end of Return of the King, where they just keep doing looks back and forth at each other, or the end of the
That's because you're crying so
Hobbit
much that
movie
you just keep like
when Pippin's or not Pippin, but what's the Feely's dying.
You're looking at the wrong guy.
When Feely's dying and he's sharing a look with the lady elf, I completely forget the character's name.
Tauriel.
Yeah,
Whatever.
and they just like keep looking back and forth at each other, and it's just like we get it, he's dying.
Peter
I thought
Jackson.
this was just enough time to like we got this couple of spins and then credits.
I thought
let
the
me
looks-
drink it in.
I enjoyed the looks. I didn't need to see the rest of the island.
I like-
that was. I mean, but
That's your. But
that's
I
my
mean, he.
small amount of criticism for.
I like
the
that. I like that he
entire
went out on
movie.
scope, though. I like that he went out. He went out on
You
a
don't
big
want him to
shot.
go out in the face?
No, he went out on the and I also like that you saw them together too. It's you didn't go out on a close up of somebody.
Two-shot, yeah.
Because I thought he was going to go out on a close up of Luke or something, but then he goes out on this big. You see them, you see the water, you see the greenery of the island.
You see a shot that they couldn't have done in the prequels because we don't have this landscape to rotate around.
Yeah,
I mean, I think there is an aspect of that. There are no chopper shots in any of the prequels because they were in a soundstage for like all of them all the time. Man, yeah, just. And then we finish up, and I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen next.
But it's going to be awesome.
It is going to be awesome. So that was our incredibly long, epic length discussion.
Beat by beat breakdown of Star Wars.
Of Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. We'll talk about Episode 8. I don't know. We might talk about Rogue One when it comes out.
Yeah, I'd like to.
I'm very fascinated to see what becomes of that.
This movie has actually made me way more excited for the idea of like starfighters in space, like in Star Wars.
Yes. It has made me way less excited for Star Wars Rogue One. Because I feel like having seen this and how epic this is and how much I want 8, I feel like there's no way that movie's not going to feel like a stopgap.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
I'm very. You've got Star Wars, which is my favorite franchise, and you've got heist movies, which is my favorite. Genre
I'm not saying
of film
it can't
put
be
together.
Plus
I'm not
Alan Tudyk.
I'm not saying it can't be a good movie. It'll probably be fun,
and
but
Eat Man in one movie. So.
that's true. Donnie Yen is
Donnie
awesome. But I don't know. My concern is I'll be like, yeah, it's fine. Where's Episode 8?
And then 7 months later, you'll get it.
But the
This is
nice
true.
thing about Rogue One is it's going to be set before New Hope. I mean, so we could get familiar bad guys. We could get familiar characters.
I'm not saying I couldn't get excited
I mean,
for
don't
it.
we
but
know that there's someone going to be like playing a CG version of Tarkin in this movie?
I don't know about that.
there's some rumors about that. Whether or not it's
Just
true, I
treat
don't
this
know.
like First Class. right? Like, you've got the other X-Men movies. This is...
Yeah, but we weren't in the middle of something.
Yeah, but...
Well, we kind of were, and then we just abandoned it.
Yeah, there's the Wolverine.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
The Wolverine came out.
There was some.
The Wolverine came out after First Class.
That's what I'm saying. So you had the third movie, then you had First Class, before you get to the Wolverine.
Yeah.
If you think about the
So I'm
Wolverine
saying-
as our Rogue One in this scenario.
No, Wolverine...
But we're not going
The Wolverine
backwards.
is Episode 8. Rogue One is First Class.
What?
No, hang on. What? Rogue One is First Class?
Yes. Rogue One is First Class because you went...
But
You went X3. Yes.
no. That would be the same as saying if Rogue One came out before Episode 7, because the First Class was the beginning of something else after something ended.
Guys, this is such a deep nerd argument.
It's
this.
insane. We got to turn to our
I'm
recommendation
going to
segment.
draw a map for you guys.
People have long since stopped listening to this epic length podcast.
Probably.
It's longer than the movie at this point.
It is longer than the movie, and it's the longest episode we've ever done. But let's do a quick recommendation segment where we recommend comics we think you should be reading. Ian, you're our guest here. What do you want people to check out?
Yeah, a series that I got into not too long ago that I've really enjoyed is actually called Peter Panzerfaust. I think I'm pronouncing that right.
Panzerfaust?
Peter Panzerfaust.
That's how it's pronounced.
And what it is it's actually kind of the story. It's remnants of the story of Peter Pan, but set in World War II. And so Peter Pan is actually kind of Gorgoni, you've read it. How would you describe his character? I mean, he's definitely kind of a rebel in the sense that he's
A puckish rogue.
definitely. But it's written by Curtis J. Wiebe, excuse me. And
West what we think.
We're actually not sure
We're
how
not-
that's pronounced. But he also wrote one of the favorite comics of mine, which is Rat Queens.
Yeah, we've talked about that on the show before.
But it's definitely a perfect head nod to Peter Pan without it being straight from the story, and it brings in a lot of characters from the original story that you know and love. And Hook in this is played by kind of a higher SS officer, and it's really enjoyable. It's a great take on Peter Pan, so that you kind of understand what's going on jumping into it, but there are definitely lots of twists and turns that keep you guessing. It's a great
Cool.
book.
Very cool. I'm going to take from that a little bit, and I'm recommending this because of the Nazi-like imagery and things in this, is a book called Uber by Kieran Gillen and Kanan White. I'm going to go with Kanan.
Okay.
Which,
Trust you on this.
Gorgoni, have you read this book, Uber?
No.
Seems like it's way up your alley.
Does it have Dracula?
No, but it's
Godzilla?
No, it's set
Are
in an
Nazis the bad guys?
yes.
Okay, then.
It's set in an alternate take on World War II, where near the end of the war, as Germany's losing, they crack how to make superpowers.
Nice.
And so they create the Ubermenches and unleash superpowered beings on the world, and basically start winning back the war.
Oh, dang.
And then it's all about the Allies racing to figure out how they can do this, how they can make their own super soldiers. And they have a British secret agent woman inside the labs at the German. It's crazy and violent and insane, and it's a lot of fun. But yeah, it's called Uber, and it's
Cool.
superpowered Nazis.
Awesome.
Yeah, cool. Let's check that. Gorgoni, what do you got?
In the spirit of things, I have a Star Wars comic.
What?
I know, right?
Wait, they make Star Wars comics?
Quite a few, actually. They never stopped. This is actually one of the old Dark Horse comics that are...
Dark Horse?
Yeah, exactly.
They don't make Marvel. They've always made them.
Yeah, sure, John.
That's what the Marvel told me.
Well, Marvel is reprinting all the old Dark
I'm
Horse
aware.
stuff now, so... but I don't think this one is ever going to get reprinted because it's a weird one. And that's the trade is called Tag and Bink Were Here.
Oh, yeah.
This is the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
It's on the Marvel app.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Awesome. So if you have that, I recommend this. It is a story of two hapless rebel soldiers who are kind of like basically falling feet first through the entire Star Wars whole canon. Like it goes through. It starts out in the original movies. Eventually, there's like a prequel comic that takes place during the prequels, in which these two characters, Tag and Bink, are kind of like stumbling their way through all of the major events of Star Wars, kind of as background characters. It's a lot of fun. If you're a fan of Star Wars, there's a lot of like fun jokes, like when Mon Mothma says many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Oh, yeah.
We meet Manny Bothans, who is the man who died to bring them this information.
Yeah. It's a fun book. It's
a really fun book. If you like the humorous stuff within Star Wars, this is a good-natured poking fun at Star Wars. It's written by Kevin Rubio, and it has art by Lucas Marangon.
I was going to say
George Lucas.
Lucas, George.
No. And the book is called Tag and Bink We're Here.
Yeah.
Donovan, what do you got?
I've got one directly related to what we're talking about. It's Green Lantern Secret Origins by Jeff Johns and Ivan Rice.
Nice.
Donovan is recommending a Green Lantern comic. I think this is new ground for us.
Yes. I've never done this before. I don't think I've recommended this one before.
You're not much of a fan of Green
Hopefully.
Lantern, I know. So.
No.
Especially not that Kyle Rayner fellow.
Well, he's okay.
All right.
No, this is a really, really awesome. It's towards the beginning of the Jeff Johns run, like issues 29 through 30 something. Really, really cool look, fresh take at kind of what's going on with Green Lantern. It's kind of a buddy cop story with him and Sinestro in a lot of ways, which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
And you kind of see that, and then
it's a great book. One of my favorites.
leads kind of right into Rebirth, which is one of the best Green Lantern.
This actually came
stories of all
after
time.
Rebirth, which is interesting.
But I mean,
It's canonic, from a narratively.
Exactly.
What was interesting is he wrote it like midway through his run, kind of.
on Rebirth, yeah. I recently was flipping back through it, and it's so good. It's just like everything you want in a Green Lantern story. So if you haven't read a lot of Green Lantern, or you like Green Lantern but you don't know what to read next, check out Secret Origin.
Very cool. Well, I want to thank anyone who's managed to make it through the podcast equivalent of Gone with the Wind. And
I was going to say Dances with Wolves, the director's cut.
Yeah. We're not that long. What was that, like 5 hours, something like that? I don't know. It's a lot of Kevin Costner wandering around the woods. But
so many things.
Of course, we recommend people go out and see Star Wars Episode 7: The Force Awakens.
If you haven't already, you shouldn't have listened to this podcast.
It's playing.
See it again, though.
It's playing in every theater everywhere right now. Unless you're in China, apparently, then you're gonna have to wait a couple weeks. Sorry, Chinese listeners, I guess. But I want to thank Ian for joining us today and talking Star Wars.
Thank you for having me.
And of course, I guess there's nothing left to say except.
Well, I mean, if you want to tell us your opinions on Star Wars, you can email us at panelonpanels@gmail.com, or you can if you have a very concise thought on Star Wars, you can find us on Twitter at panelonpanels.
We certainly don't have any concise thoughts.
No. If you'd like to get a hold of us through some kind of like social media, like a book of faces of some sort, you can find us on Facebook, Panel on Panels.
Pinterest, Instagram.
There are other
things.
ways you can get a hold of us. And we love to hear from you guys, so please do that.
This segment is becoming more like, I don't know, just try to find us.
It's you abandoning this like part of the episode.
We're excited.
Who put me in charge of doing this anyway?
You do the intros and outros.
I don't know. All right, whatever.
We're excited if people want to reach out to us.
Look, we like you.
And I want to
you like
encourage
us.
it. Also, I would
talk.
love having lively discussions about Star Wars, no matter the time or place.
Clearly.
Absolutely.
And this thing.
If you want to rate and review us,
write
on
to me
iTunes.
about where you want to see the Yuzon Vong show up in this new Star Wars.
Yep, do it.
John
will read
the
it.
dead-eyed stare.
John
I love
will
it.
read it along with us.
He'll show. They'll show up right around the time Boba Fett shows up.
That's
Blasphemy, heretic.
For Panel on Panels, I've been John Campbell.
I am currently Mike Gergoni.
And I will always be Donovan Eilert.
I will abandon our normal outro.
Keep watching Star Wars, everyone.
And simply say, may the Force be with you.